You're listening to the Black Eagles podcast with Sinan Schwarting and Kaan Bayazit.
Ahmet Dursun Sergen aldı. Sergen Bülent yan yana. Sergen Bülent. Sergen. Yanında Tümer var. Tümer'e doğru atışını kaybetti. Tümer topu aldı. Sergen aldı. Gol! Gol! Gol! Sergen attı. Sergen attı. Şampiyonluk geldi. Sergen attı. Şampiyonluk geldi.
İbrahim'in pası. Zuma. Şimdi Ahmet. İkinci gole gidiyor Beşiktaş. Ahmet.
Hello, Black Eagles fans. This horrid season is finally over. We can celebrate for that. But before, we have to pull you through the grinder one last time because we did have one final match, which we will be briefly talking about. But this episode will be centralized around recapping the season. So we are going to bring you back to all those lovely moments in this season, the highlights of the season. We're going to get to that right after we talk about the game against Kasimpaşa that finished yesterday. But before we do that, let me introduce you to my co-hosts from Glasgow, Scotland. Kartal Ogur is joining me live. Kartal, welcome to the show.
Yeah, it's great to be on again. Thank God that's over.
Exactly.
That's all I can say.
I think those are the sentiments of everyone collectively.
Yeah.
And of course, from New York City, New York, the man himself, Sinan Schwarting. Sinan, the beard is gone. I already noticed it last time, but I forgot to mention it. How are you feeling about this glorious season being over?
I'm actually like excited for this next phase. Is what I am. More than even like all the negative, glad this terrible season is over, that's pretty obvious. I think we all share that feeling. But most of all, I'm actually excited about what comes next. There's a lot, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Like so much, like incoming immediately, right? We have probably new coach news, which should be fun. That should be certainly a lot of fun for us to discuss for the next couple of weeks, or hopefully not that long actually, but then, training camp, friendlies, transfers, right? Like this is kind of, it should be fun. It's like a rebirth, like a phoenix rising from the ashes.
Talking about the training camp has been announced. The dates of the training camp have been announced. They elude me now. I didn't write them down because I am bad at preparing. I believe the 10th of June. Is that correct? Does that sound correct to you guys?
No. It's the 1st of July.
1st of July, okay. Must be Fenerbahce's training camp I'm thinking of then, because they have to play qualifiers.
1st of July, we start training in our own facilities in the St. Invitation Series.
So we're getting...
And then we go to Slovenia on the 10th of July, so that's where you got the number 10 from, I think. On the 10th of July, we go to Slovenia.
I know where I got the 10. Yeah, that is probably where I got it from. But I got a 10 in my head for another reason as well. But we'll be talking about that later. But yeah, before we dig into recapping the season, going over the low points, the high points, plenty of both, more so of one than the other. But before we do that, let's talk about this final match of the season, the game against Kasimpaşa, which, fortunately for us, wasn't important anymore because we weren't playing for anything anymore. We already got our European qualification thanks to our glorious cup victory against Trabzonspor. So our place in Europe was already secured. So this game really only was about who finishes fifth. Kasimpaşa had to beat us to finish in fifth, and of course they did, 2-1. So Kasimpaşa finished in fifth, while we finish in sixth. And the difference there is mainly about prize money. So if you finish fifth, you get 7.9 million Turkish lira. And if you finished in sixth, you get 4 million Turkish lira. So there's a difference of 3.9 million Turkish lira, which boils down to a whopping 109,000 euros, which is like... that we pay that much for for a fine. I feel like after a game after a home game when our fans chant a couple of things that they don't like. So, joke of prize. The prize money is a joke. The champion got 39 million lira, by the way, which boils down to roughly €1 million. It's like, I know TV prize money is also based on rankings a little bit, I believe. So. But still, it's ridiculous, that type of money. But let's talk about this game. I'm going to start with you, Kartal. What did you think about this game going into it? What were your hopes and dreams for it? And when you saw the lineup, what did you expect? And then ultimately, how do you feel about it?
I mean, to be honest, when I saw the lineup, I kind of knew we'd lose because we rested basically all our key players. The only starters that actually started were Masuaku and Semi. The rest of it was a completely rotated lineup from what our usual 11 would be. I believe 3 academy players got their first starts. Fari, Mustafa Erhan, and well, I suppose there was a third one as well.
Fari Kerem, Mustafa Hekimoğlu, Demir
was a third one.
Obviously, he had already started.
It was two got their first start, and it was only 2 that got the first start, so I was thinking there was an extra on there, but there wasn't. But obviously, Demi Reges started a few games, so it wasn't his first start. So I wasn't expecting much. So. Yeah, he's still a youth player, but it wasn't his debut. I mean, when I looked at that 11, I kind of expected that we'd lose. To be honest, we weren't good, but I think the result was a bit generous because we did miss we missed a few good chances, I felt. Semi had a couple of good chances. I believe it was Fari, wasn't it? They had a good chance as well.
Yeah, really good chance on that lofted pass by Semi.
Yeah, beautiful pass from the lofted pass from Semi. So I really think this game could have easily been 2 each.
Yeah,
I think maybe the result was a bit harsh. But when I saw the 11, I didn't expect much. To be honest, I would have preferred finishing the season on a strong note. Getting another W. Not another, because we haven't been winning that much, let's be honest. But if we got a win and got the 5th place, I think it would have been nicer. But obviously, ultimately, I'm not that bothered because, as you've already alluded to, the Turkish Cup win on Thursday already secured our place in the Europa League playoffs. So whether we ended 5th or 6th, it didn't make a difference really. Apart from that €100,000 that you were talking about earlier. So it was really more pride than anything else, which obviously still want to win, but I wasn't too upset either. I'll say that much.
Yeah, I understand the feeling. And after the game, so because you said, we had our chances, did you have any good, positive takeaways from this match? Anything you thought that maybe going into the game wouldn't necessarily be the case, but something a positive note to end on, so to speak?
I think Hekimoğlu looked pretty good, to be honest. Mustafa Erhan. Yeah, he's very physical. And normally in Turkey, you get these youth players that come up and they've got some talent, but they completely lack physicality. I think with Mustafa Erhan, he's got the opposite. He's full of physicality, which is good. It gives him an advantage coming into the professional setup, the A-team. I think that was his best performance so far since he's been getting minutes from the A-team. Before he seemed a bit kind of overzealous, a bit too excited, and it seemed as if he was getting tired out a bit quickly. But it was a decent show from him, so I'd say he was the main bright spot yesterday.
What about you, Sinan? What were your main takeaways from this game and your expectations going into it?
Whoa. I mean, going into it before we saw the lineup, obviously it was like, let's have some fun. Like, let's score some goals or whatever. But then once you saw the lineup, especially the fact that we'd ceded the midfield to our opponent, you kind of felt like this might not go our way, especially given that the one strength of Serdar Topraktepe's teams thus far has been holding the ball more and all that, giving away the midfield by putting in essentially three youths. No, was Ox the third?
Yeah,
Ox was Ox played the more as a 6, to be honest.
Yeah, and he was pretty poor actually too. He had a rough outing, unfortunately. But so yeah, like knowing that you were kind of giving away the midfield and sort of giving away a strength in theory, I wasn't especially hopeful. And then especially you remember how Kasimpaşa has kind of burned us not so long ago, right? This Nuno da Costa guy is kind of a pain in the ass.
14 goals this season, 4 of them have come against Beşiktaş.
I mean, yeah, it's crazy. There's it's like a legitimate chunk of his goals against us. But
Stats
anyway,
padding against us.
it's crazy. He knows how to take advantage of an Egypt, day. But anyway, with that said, I have to say that the best thing to occur was the semi goal. That's actually
it was beautiful.
almost an ideal. Like that's kind of what you'd hope for the most, right? Like is to see Semi find the back of the net again, and not just find the back of the net, but like impressively, right? Like do something to remind us what we were all so excited about for so much of this season, and maybe even like remind us to maybe watch the Euros this summer for those of us who are losing our enthusiasm. Maybe I hope Semi gets the call up. Like that could be, little things like that, little moments like that could theoretically help him.
He got the call up, of course, for the preliminary squad, but cuts,
you know what I mean.
Cuts still have to be made. Yeah,
exactly. I hope he gets through that round of cuts.
How many did they call up? I think 30 players, right? So 4 would have to be eliminated, I think.
Yeah,
if I'm not mistaken.
As you mentioned, we don't have a lot of options up front, so that could be a strength also for potentially keeping Semi.
What did you boys think about Kasımpaşa's young left back Yasin Özcan, who has been strongly linked with move to Beşiktaş? Were you impressed? He scored the second goal.
Yeah, it was a very good goal. It was a very good goal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very unorthodox for left back, I think, to score a goal like that. It felt like he knew what he was doing in front of goal.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, he's an interesting player. He's built like a centre back, but he's a very athletic as well.
Yeah. During the last national team break, when Semi was playing for the under-21s, he assisted Semi's first goal in the first game as well. Completely eludes me who it was against. The second match was Italy. I think the first one might have been Scotland. Is that possible? I don't remember.
Maybe like Albania. I thought didn't we play Albania?
I think they're playing Scotland this break.
They are playing Scotland this break. But I don't remember who it was against. Like Semi scored in both games, but I don't remember who the first game was against.
I remember one was Italy.
So the first goal was an assist from Yasin Özcan. Really good assist, by the way. He gets to the back line and then lays it off. And he's just turned 18 years old, I believe. So at 17, he had already played 55 games in the Super League, which is, that's impressive, right? Like, even if it is for Kasimpaşa, it doesn't really matter. I think if you're at 17 years old, like that means he made his debut around 16. And he hasn't left their squad. We've seen other young players in the past make their debuts at a young age. Emre from Kayseri, what was his name? His last name, I forget.
David.
Sorry?
David. Was it not Emre Demir?
Emre Demir, right. So he went to Barcelona for a while and then he came back. Didn't he go to Fenerbahce or something? I don't remember.
He did, yeah. He went to Fenerbahce.
Yeah. But he played, but like you could tell he wasn't ready. But Yasin Özcan, like Semi, looks like he belongs, right? So hopefully that's a deal we can finalize, because getting a good Turkish left back and also somebody that can play as a center back, that versatility is great, and getting someone like that ahead of our rivals would be great. I'm very surprised that it's been all Beşiktaş for him, the news around him. Like, there's been news surrounding him for a while now that the deal has been agreed in principle. And I'm just surprised that Fenerbahce and Galatasaray aren't getting involved here. Especially Galatasaray. Of course, they got Kazımcan last season, but that didn't really work out. And Fenerbahce got Levent now from Fatih Karagümrük, who's a little older. I think he's like 23 years old or something like that. But he's probably going to replace Ferdi, who's expected to leave after the Euros. So, yeah, Yasin Özcan, hopefully that's a a move we can finish off. Shall we have a look at the stats, guys, from this match?
Yeah.
Do you want to pull them up on your phone, Sinan, as you go over them on the screen?
I've already got them. How about that? Prepped. Locked and loaded.
Yeah, man, yeah. All right, here we go. Here's the stats. Here's the two teams, the lineups from both teams.
So, and like while we're looking at this lineup, I thought it's actually interesting that we talked about a potential backup or new left back coming in, and I wondered if the fact that Masuaku was one of very few starters who got the call, if maybe that's us putting him in the window, the shopping window. Maybe that's a sign that he could be outgoing. But anyway,
there's rumored interest for Masuaku at least.
Yeah, and I heard France. So anyway, that's just a thought. Stick a pin in that.
Look at the XG here. So
yeah, that's what I was just gonna say. So we actually, even though we theoretically gave away the midfield with our team selection, held the ball for the majority of the match, 55% to their 45%. It's funny, XG rarely lines up with the score, but this is a case. So 2.05 XG for them and 0.97 for us, and sure enough, the score was 2-1.
I think that's because of the type of goals they scored, right? Both of them were both tap-ins.
Exactly.
The second one wasn't a tap-in. That's unfair to call that a tap-in, but the first one was an empty net.
Oh yeah, the first one. Yeah, you're right. The second one, you can't really call it a tap-in.
Yeah, no. I mean, it was.
But it is a
technically a
tap-in. Squared.
Technically a tap, but like a tap that was very highly skilled. So, but anyway, so they had 19 shots to our 6, but only 3 big chances to our 2. We missed both of our big chances, and they missed 1 of their 3. I'm trying to think of the one. I mean, we'll talk about that, I guess. We'll analyze the stats after. We committed 11 fouls to their 9. We were offsides 5 times. They were never offsides. We had 8 corners. Oh, I'm sorry. It's the opposite. The inverse. They had 5 offsides to our 0. That makes more sense. They had 8 corners to our 3. So, yeah, I mean, everything spells them having more of the ball in our side of the pitch or in more attacking positions, although, as Kartal said, we did have quite a few chances that I don't know how they had. I feel like we had more than 2 big chances that were missed. If you think about some pretty big saves that were made. Anyway,
I can think of 2 great chances for Semi and 1 for Fari missed.
Yeah,
exactly.
Big missed chances.
Yeah, and there was another one. And I thought it was Semi who'd gotten through, but like towards somewhere in the second half, someone broke through the back line and had a one-on-one with the keeper, and the keeper saved it. And I mean, the shot was sort of not taken strong enough, but I thought it was Semi, but Semi then was like quickly on the sideline to get the ball for the throw-in, so it had to have been someone else. But I wondered who that was. Anyway, but so yeah, I agree. There were too many chances for that stat to be accurate. Subjectively speaking, we actually had more accurate passes. So despite them having many more chances in attack, we did have 352 accurate passes to their 271, completed at an 82% rate to their 79. Yeah, I don't know. Any other stats you guys want to hear about?
No, I think it's fine. Let's move on from this dreadful game.
Yeah, it wasn't much to speak about, I would say.
No. One final thing, I do agree with what Kartal said. Like Mustafa Hekimoğlu, definitely for me as well. Like the bright spot from this game. He looked like. Also, like I felt like he looked like he is ready for more minutes next season. I got past his man almost every single time. He was surprisingly skillful. Like I don't really know Mustafa that well. I've only watched him for the under 19s, and he's only played, that many games. And obviously, when he came on, but when he came on earlier in the season, he never really left an impression on me. Like either way, like good or bad. When I seen him for the under 19s, he looks good, but he was playing more in a central role. Now he was playing more on the wings, and he's built like somebody you would expect to be a center forward, and like a target man almost. But he looked like he had some pace to him, some skill on the ball, able to beat a man. And some guts in him as well. So looks like an interesting player for sure. I hope we get to see more of him next season because I think there's another talent there. I'm not gonna say semi-level because I think it's too early for that. Looks like a decent talent.
Yeah, he's only 16 years old as well. That's another thing to bear in mind.
Just turned 17.
Oh, sorry. So he's 17. So he's 2 years younger than Semi.
Yeah. All right, let's have a look at the standings. So after that defeat to...
One question actually I have, because I think it was Kartal's father who might have mentioned that Emrecan Uzunhan might have actually played well coming off the bench. And I personally didn't. I had kind of checked out by then, it was a sort of snooze fest. But can either of you confirm? I guess not. So maybe we're fine in the dark there. Well, so then maybe we'll give the credit, the reporting credit to your father, Kartal. Maybe check it out, folks. Emrecan Uzunhan might have played well.
He did. It was the first time he played in over 400 and something days for Beşiktaş. Obviously coming off of his ACL injury. But yeah, let's have a look at these standings. So we finish in 6th, and that's our worst finish in, 22 years or something like that? It's
26 years.
Oh, there we go.
26.
And also, point-wise, our worst season in over 2 decades, I believe. Worse than 2 seasons ago. We finished on 59 points that season. And now, of course, I think, finishing in 6th, especially for Beşiktaş, is very out of the ordinary. But we do get our European qualification, as you can see, through the cup, of course. So the other teams going to Europe, Galatasaray playing the playoffs of the Champions League. Fenerbahce have to play 2 additional rounds, I think, so 3 qualifiers. So they start their season mid-July. And then Trabzonspor are going to the Europa League as well. And Başakşehir are the only Turkish club in the Conference League. Of course, notwithstanding if us or Trabzonspor drop down, we can also end up in the Conference League, of course. So that's the standings at the top of the table. Let's have a look at the standings at the bottom of the table. So the teams going down. Very interestingly, we already knew Istanbulspor and Pendikspor and Fatih Karagümrük were relegated. So 3 clubs from Istanbul relegated. But number 4 has joined them on the last day of the season, and that was Ankaragücü. I don't think a lot of people were expecting that. But Ankaragücü are going down to the Birinci League after suffering a devastating for them 4-2 defeat at the hands of Trabzonspor, despite going up twice in the game, including late in the game. So, very disappointing result for them, but I think it's a little bit of karma, if you ask me. And Hatay and Konyaspor both saved their asses. Hatay did so by beating Çaykur Rizespor, and Konyaspor lost heavily to Galatasaray at home, but they already had 1 more point. So they were safe because Ankaragücü lost. Guys, any thoughts on this? On the relegation or the final table?
I was having a little fun yesterday, kind of trying to formulate like the new Super League beef, right? Because for anyone who doesn't recall, we were kind of arbitrarily made a scapegoat or an enemy of Bursa because of us beating someone that saw them go down a few years back.
No, because we lost to
that's what it was.
Or something.
Yeah. We dropped the result, and obviously last game of the season, it's probably a lot like what we saw yesterday. We were probably playing.
I don't even think it was the last game of the season. I think it was a couple of games before the end of the season or something like that. We lost to one of their relegation dogfight rivals, and they blamed us for that. Yeah.
Some scenario like that, and so they decided we were their enemy, which is ridiculous, or rival even, which is actually absurd. Like how dare they? But
how pompous of them.
I know. Who do you think you are? I don't even know. I think of that Thanos meme. I don't even know
who.
Yeah. But so then, even more bizarre than that is Ankaragücü deciding that we're rivals of theirs too because they're friendly with Bursa. So we've just got enemies all over the friggin' place because of weird arbitrary. So I was wondering. So since Ankaragücü went down because Rize let. Who did Rize drop points to?
Rize
Sorry,
lost to Hatay, and a spicy
so
little
Hatay-
detail. Rize sports coach Ilhan Palut is from Hatay. He's the man who brought them to the Super League.
There you go.
So, spicy little detail there, I think. You could, your imagination could, come up with some scenarios.
Well, so Ankaragücü by the rules of Bursa must in turn now Rize is their rival, which is actually probably a better rival, right? If you think about it, as far as
that's
the
more
size
their
of the club.
that's more their level for sure.
And even there's a little regionalism at play there. They could probably work with that's great, fine. But so that was a fun thing to imagine. And then so in turn because is it for us? Is it an enemy of my enemy is my friend scenario? Because now that Ankaragücü and in turn Bursa have to hate Rize. Does that mean that we should just become Rize's friend? That could be a fun club to have as a friend, I guess. We could loan players to them. That's a decent squad. Anyway, that was just a little fun I was having with that. Real quick, I'd like to note that Mario Vargas in our chat talked about how Belozolu crying was and he did the chef's kiss type thing.
Right.
And it was indeed that was a little bit of catharsis, I think, for most. Obviously Ankaragücü fans, and then I don't know who claims Emre, Galatasaray or Fener, who claims him as their boy.
Fener.
Yeah.
No, I think at this point neither. He's losing Fenerbahce, I think.
Everyone's washing their hands of this guy
because it was very very it was full of praise for Galatasaray earlier on in the
saying it was the best team they ever had or something.
I think that pissed off a lot of Fenerbahce fans.
After losing, what was it, 3-0 at home to them? Or 4-0?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, but this is the best Galatasaray team ever, so it's normal. I felt like that was just him downplaying the heavy defeat more than anything.
When Ankaragücü put Fenerbahçe out of the cup as well, the Fenerbahçe fans were swearing at him.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. I mean, you couldn't swear at a nicer guy, right?
Yeah, right. The guy who spends half of his career as a player and a coach swearing, literally, loudly.
Yeah.
Anyway,
it's mind-boggling how he can always be so, just unself-aware. Whenever Beşiktaş fans swear at him after the game, he's like, "Oh, I can't believe the Beşiktaş fans swore at me. And they called my mother this and my wife that. Oh, how?" And meanwhile, this guy, the worst example of but yeah. Kartal, any final thoughts on the league table, mate?
Well, obviously, in terms of the size of the club and the fan base, it's probably not a good thing for the league that Ankaragücü have been relegated.
Yeah.
Because they are one of the few teams that can actually fill their stadium for the big games at least.
Yeah, for sure.
And have respectable attendances for the majority of the time.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, though, with the shenanigans we've seen from not just our fans but also our president in the last 2 years, assaulting an official, punching him and kicking him on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And also what happened with us, not this season but the year before, when one of our fans invaded the pitch and tried to kung fu kick Sarri in the back and was restrained by Joseph.
Yeah.
I think just after these events in the last couple of years, I think maybe it's a good thing they've been relegated so they can maybe learn how to behave, and then once they've learned how to behave, they can come back.
Wishful thinking, my friend. I don't think they'll learn how to behave, quite honestly.
I like the fatherly instinct, though. Maybe you're ready to have a child, Kartal. Sorry, I don't mean to sound like your grandma or whatever. But...
Be careful, because they might be listening.
I know.
I need to stop dropping people's names.
It's all right.
It
wasn't a bad word.
It's okay.
She's no secret.
She's famous now in the Black Eagles podcast realm.
Internet famous.
So like 100-something people now know her name. But yeah, no, actually, you know what? Before we move on, guys, I want to thank you all very much for becoming followers, subscribers to the podcast. I think we have reached a lot of new people the last couple of weeks on YouTube. We've been on YouTube for as long, I think, as the podcast has been going, but we never really did anything with YouTube. We just put the podcast on there, figured maybe a couple of people listened to podcasts on YouTube. Obviously, we were audio only for the longest time. Never really pushed YouTube because obviously most people listen to podcasts on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever. But now since we changed the format and went to video, we've seen a big growth in subscribers, obviously. Our numbers are going up back to what they were, I don't know, a couple of years ago. Sinan, you remember we had some really good numbers like a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I mean, I think
we took a little bit of a break. But I think we're back. I mean, our Jose Mourinho episode did better than anything ever did, for sure. I mean, we're close to 700 views on that, and then a bunch of downloads.
That'll hit 1,000. I think that'll hit 1,000.
Yeah, possibly. We'll see.
Wow.
But so thank you very much if you're new to the show. Also, if you're a long-time listener, thank you for sticking with us. If you're new, welcome. Hope you enjoy the content. We've been getting some really nice commentary in the comment section. We really appreciate that. We do this. This is a labor of love for us. It's not something, we don't make money with this. We don't have the numbers for that. You know, obviously, if you get like 10,000 views per video, you can make money off of YouTube, but we're nowhere near that. So this is very much a labor of love. So we really appreciate all the feedback. The positive, but also if there's negative, if there's any constructive criticism, feel free to let us know. And if you're listening but you haven't subscribed yet, please do click that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, click that thumbs up or tap that thumbs up, and leave comments. I really enjoy reading all of your comments, so please leave more comments. I really like interacting with you guys on there, and just getting your thoughts on everything. Anyway, let's move on to the next section of this episode. So we have covered the Kasimpaşa game. Enough said about that. Let's go back and look at the entire season as a whole. And I want to start with a couple of points here, guys. I'm going to start with you, Kartal. Who was the most disappointing transfer of this season for you?
Hold on, Kaan. Maybe we should start the review with that list. Remember, you were talking about the list of like key events.
Great idea, Kartal. Hold that thought, Sinan. Would you go over the chronological happenings of the season, so to speak, please?
Yes. Sorry to steal your thunder there, Kartal. That was.
That's okay.
I just remembered. I had it saved in my phone and everything. So, anyway, so this is actually kind of a fun list because it really, I thought it's fairly thorough. Thanks to Kaan, obviously, for finding it. Whose tweet was this? This is
Kartal, I think.
Yeah.
Kartal. Yeah, good job, folks over there. I think we could put that beef to rest.
They tried to. We used to have an English Beşiktaş Twitter account. We were the only one on Twitter for the longest time, and then they approached us like after like 5 years or something and asked if we wanted to go under their umbrella, so to speak. I turned it down at the time, so they started their own English Beşiktaş Twitter account, and a little bit of a rivalry there. I guess.
A little friendly rivalry.
I haven't seen them tweet in a long time, and obviously we have moved away from being that English news account and transformed it into the podcast account.
Yeah,
I think because I think is Twitter's evolved as well. I mean, the translate function on Twitter is actually really good now.
Yeah,
obviously I don't use it that much.
Yeah.
I don't really use it at all.
Yeah.
I'll use it more if it's like Spanish or Portuguese or whatever, because obviously I speak Turkish. But I think guys Kaan, your Turkish understanding's pretty good as well. But for like Sinan, you probably don't even feel the need for English.
I'm using it now. I'm using it right now.
I was I never spoke Turkish as growing up. Like my parents got divorced when I was pretty young, and I never really learned Turkish. So I was kind of forced to learn Turkish in the 2000s and the 2010s, really to keep up with Beşiktaş and Beşiktaş news. Yeah. Also, one of the main reasons that Sinan and I started the podcast to begin with is to reach fans that don't speak Turkish for the most part. but I have been forced to adapt and learn to be able to, keep up with the ins and outs. So also for, as you know, I do some journalism on the side. So for all that, it's also important to actually be able to know what I'm talking about. But I do find nowadays, like the last year and a half, 2 years maybe, where that translation function on Twitter has improved so much that I'm getting lazy. And a short message I'll still just read and okay. But like if it's like a long message, I'll just hit translate and just read it in English because I can't be arsed.
Yeah, so that's why I think it's like there's not really a need for a English Beşiktaş page anymore when that translate function's so good now. But I think there's still there's a great need for this because they don't have live translation for Benito's streams yet, and of course our views are a lot better than theirs anyway. So I think people would be interested in hearing what we've got to say, regardless.
Yeah, we're still doing the work of, hopefully, broadcasting Beşiktaş to the, I think we're most relevant probably during the season, like when European football starts, right? We can, for people who are scouting the club, they could probably reach us. But then obviously, the diaspora, right? I think that's our real target, is the Turkish diaspora. There's a lot of folks like us.
We have a lot of listeners and viewers from Turkey, like very high percentage. I think
maybe. And what I was thinking is we could probably advertise this as a great way to like practice your English, right? Because I
have seen a lot of listeners. Well, a lot. I have seen some listeners from Turkey mention that exactly, like it's a great way to improve your English. So if that's you.
And I've been an English teacher for many years, actually. So it's worth noting that, like, one of the key things that students often looked for was like native English, like people speaking naturally, so that they can practice their listening skills. So folks, if you're out there, brush up with the Black Eagles podcast. Anyway, let me dive into this. So the season review. Let's start it properly, and I'll review. I'll talk about all the key events from this last season.
Let's do that.
Starting from June 30th of 2023, and that's fitting because that's just around the corner, right? A month from now, it'll be June 30th, 2024. But so that is the date that Burak Yilmaz was first hired as Şenol Güneş's assistant coach. That's funny that's where we start. July 1st, the season opened with the training held at the Nevzat Demir facilities. Same as this year, same date. July 15th, Tadic, whose name was mentioned with Beşiktaş, was transferred to Fener. So that was like the first bad news to drop.
That was a big blow, right? Like that I think that's steered our season off the tracks straight away.
And what made it doubly worse is that just 2 days later, Nathan Redmond said goodbye to Beşiktaş officially, and we learned that his wife or whatever it was, wanted to stay and raise their kids in England. So not only did we not get Tadic, but then we also lost the kind of like, default that we could go back to.
Yeah, we lost a lot of time on that as well because it was will he, won't he stay? And we lost like a month of transfer window basically to bring in another winger.
Yeah. And we all know where we ended up on that, which we'll get to soon, I would imagine.
We've had a shortage of wingers all season, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, and I was going to say, because Redvich. Anyway. July 19th, Vice President Serhan Çetinsaya shared an hourglass emoji, exciting us all. And the next day we signed, drum roll please, Amarte and Onana.
Yeah, but that's thing that that hourglass emoji was interpreted, I believe, as a sign to who was going to that there was going to be an announcement for the stadium sponsor. Remember that?
Yeah, if you're expecting like Emirates or like Qatar Airlines or something like that.
We were expecting a multi-million deal. Obviously, we got a multi-million deal, but we were expecting a massive deal. We were expecting like a Gazprom or a Fly Emirates or whatever, like a 30 million a year type of deal. We ended up signing with Tüpraş for, I don't know, peanuts compared to that.
It's like 9 million a year, but Rami Papa had to come to the save again after they couldn't find anyone else.
I mean, 9 million a year is good, don't get me wrong, but we were expecting 20, 25, 30 million, right? That were the numbers that were being talked about for like over a month, and then
Here's a Black Eagles what if thought exercise. What do you think Fikret Orman, like, could we have ended up with like a Toyota park or something like that if he had stuck around? Remember his whole Japanese expedition?
Maybe. I mean,
that could have been profitable.
I think. No, I was gonna say I think he brought Toyota, but that was before his time. I think
he didn't. You didn't. They brought Toyota.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah. We had.
And then because he did, there was another. We had like a small sponsor, like on our shorts, that was Japanese. I can't remember. That was under him because he was doing all. Remember we had like the anime.
Yeah. Where's our Beşiktaş anime, bro?
Yeah, what happened, folks?
Still waiting.
I think it was Sompo Japan Insurance Company, yeah.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
They sponsored the basketball team as well, I believe, didn't
Mainichi
they?
Shimbun, I don't remember. Anyway, July 21st, the day after we signed Amarte and Onana, the transfer of Lianco, who came to Istanbul, was abandoned after health checks. And then on July 23rd, Emrecan Uzunhan, who was attacked after the traffic accident, was involved in Bakirköy. Sorry,
he got assaulted. Yeah.
He had his hamstring muscles torn. I think that was in the assault.
Yeah, how does that happen in an assault, I wonder?
He must have like taken a fall. I was.
Or he tried to kick the guy or something. I don't know. All right.
And then the next day, oh my god, this just gets every day worse. Wait, hold on. So the next day, July 24th, Romain Saiz was transferred to Al Sadd for 2.5 million euros. And then July 26th, Ceyhun Kazanji resigned.
Resigned and kept doing everything. He resigned, but he still was doing everything behind the scenes, apparently.
Yeah,
like, he never really left.
Yeah. He was like the ghost there. Anyway, July 27th, Joseph de Souza announced that Coutinho will not come to Beşiktaş. Could have skipped that one. That was a
bit of a saga.
Yeah, I guess. I remember the Jota. I remember people getting more excited about Jota than Coutinho.
Anyway. Jota. Yeah.
Where are we?
27th, Tirana.
July 27th, Beşiktaş opened the season with the Tirana match. 17-year-old Semih Kılıçsoy scored his first goal in the Beşiktaş jersey against Tirana. Huh? Interesting.
Yeah.
There was a beautiful Abu goal in that match as well, which we'll talk about later. July 30th, Beşiktaş added Rebic to its squad, which sort of is the grand conclusion to the Tadic/Redmond fiasco.
Yeah.
And then, of course, it just gets worse with the news that Rebic was the replacement. Although at the time it didn't seem like that would be worse. But anyway,
I was dead against it, man. I knew he'd flop just because of his injury history. To be honest,
I was hopeful. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't
same.
get a jersey.
Quality player. You know, we've seen that he's a quality player. He just doesn't care much.
Yeah, remember when he played striker for a stint for one match, I think, and he was pretty solid. Anyway, now we're into August 7th. Şenol Güneş made a statement about Talisca. I made a statement, right? He made the proclamation that that was his big
I wonder if in a year's time we'll be talking about this and going over the chronological events of the past season, and then we'll be talking about Hüseyin Yücel making his Mourinho statement.
Mourinho claim.
It's very comparable, I think. It's like dangling a carrot, but
knock on wood. Anyway, August 16th, Beşiktaş transferred Milot Rashica for 5.25 million euros, in which there were references to Galatasaray in the transfer video. That's not like a catastrophe of a transfer. I think we can all agree. It kind of
he redeemed himself in the second half of the season.
Yeah, he could be good. I mean, he
very much.
Still
I think
make money off of him.
He was heading towards being a dud, but he definitely stepped it up.
Yeah, after Saturday stop he came in the first time. He stepped up.
Yeah, that was a key moment for him, for sure. August 22nd, Hassan Arat called for a congress to the management. Right, that's prelude to the,
to the exceptional elections.
Swapping of the management.
Yeah.
August 29th, Serhan Çetinsaya resigned. He was the vice president, I think. August 31st, Beşiktaş qualified for the Conference League groups by eliminating Dynamo Kiev. Speaking of Abu goals. So this is where, by the way, for folks who want to go a little further back, the season prior, Abubakar helped us shithouse a number of results by scoring worldies. And he actually started bringing that form into this season. For anyone who may have forgotten, it's been a long time. Early on in Europe especially. Yeah, in Europe especially. He was, it looked like we might be on pace to keep it going.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
I think I said last season, like, there's no way he keeps this up. And then we start the new season and he just continued. He just picked up where he left off. And I think, for me at least, my mindset was like, oh, maybe he can keep this up. But I knew in the back of my head, there's probably going to be a drop-off. I didn't expect the drop-off to be so steep, though.
And it's worth noting that, like, I don't know if folks want to go back, since we were just talking about the Kiev result. Remember Lucescu talking about, like, the African national team and everything like that?
Yeah, is that not in here? That's not in here. That was a pretty big topic, but I guess it doesn't really fit the narrative.
Kind of a funny moment, anyway. And things were looking up at that time.
Yeah.
Zainutinov scored the game winner against Kiev. Remember? Anyway, so then we reached September. September 5th, Eric Bailly was transferred to Beşiktaş. It is what it is.
Yeah.
September 14th, Gökhan Inler reaches an agreement with Beşiktaş as sports director and football player. And what we did not know at the time was that this is sort of like a hostage situation. Maybe we can talk about that more later if you guys want. September 16th, the summer transfer season has ended. Beşiktaş transferred 11 players with a transfer fee of 18 million euro. I think we can all agree that that was not a successful window. I think we'll be back to that conversation shortly. September 25th, Beşiktaş's stadium sponsor became Tüpraş, which we've already kind of covered.
It didn't mention signing Ox, by the way.
Yeah, that's weird. They didn't mention
that. Seems like a pretty big moment. Yeah. Because he cost a lot.
Like, name-wise, he was our biggest signing.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah. Anyway, yeah.
September 28th, Charsha called for a congress. I don't recall that. October 5th, after the Lugano match, which we lost 3-2, the fans did not leave the stands and protested against the management. That was a particularly bad defeat. And we did go down a man in that match, but
as we were 2-0 up, and then we lose 2-3.
And as we've seen, like, in recent weeks, like, that's not an excuse. That's not an excuse to lose, especially to a team as poor as Lugano was. Anyway, October 6th, Şenol Güneş resigns. October 6th, Ahmet Nurçebi decides to hold an extraordinary election. And on that same day, Hasan Arat announces that he's a candidate in the election. October 10th, Beşiktaş announces that Burak Yılmaz will be the head coach until the election. A day in ignominy. Anyway, October 23rd, the election date in Beşiktaş was announced as December 17th. October 27th, Ahmet Nurçebi decides not to be a candidate, which is also, I thought, like, the one smart decision he made. October 30th, the election date was moved to December 3rd, which was annoying, if you guys recall. November 5th, Burak Yılmaz makes a statement after the Antalyaspor match, which was lost 3-2. And Bailly made an ugly move, he said. That's when he supposedly, slapped someone in the tunnel, like, at halftime? Going into
the... He grabbed the Tayfur by the scruff of his t-shirt, so just by his collar.
Yeah.
And basically just told him to be more careful.
Yeah, and then he took Bailly out, and we stunk, and it was a directed because we had.
I think we were leading at halftime, right? And then we lost.
Yeah. We were winning 1-0. We didn't give them one chance. Bailly was the best player on the park.
Yeah.
And then in the tunnel, Bailly just kind of grabbed Tayfur by his collar and told him to be more careful. Because of that, Burak subbed them off at the half, and then we ended up losing 3-1.
Yeah,
and they did the 2-1 reverse, and they won. Anyway, November 9th, Serdar Adali announces his candidacy for president. November 10th, Burak Yilmaz resigns. November 10th, Riza Çalınbay becomes the new coach. Someone who'd been lobbying for it for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, New York is New Yorking. December 3rd, the election takes place, and Hasan Arat becomes the new president of Beşiktaş. December 11th, Abu, Rozier, Bayi, Gezal, and Onana are all excluded from the squad. They're made Kadro Dishi, which is a huge moment for the club at that point.
Mm-hmm.
October. December 14th, Beşiktaş says goodbye to the Conference League in the group stage. That's like a little stab in the heart. I didn't even need to remind us. Anyway, December 20th, a special jersey was released for the 100th anniversary of the Republic. Is that the one that people didn't like very much?
No.
Or is that
Is it when they did the black one?
That's the black and now that's a nice one.
I'm
Okay.
sure people liked it.
It was the Atatürk one, which was a little
Worth
racy,
mentioning
right?
as well, our European opponents were Club Brugge, Bodo Glimt, and Lugano. So we didn't make it out of a group with Bodo Glimt and Lugano in it. We should have probably always made it. All due respect, of course, to those two clubs, but obviously they are both clubs with a operating budget far lower than ours. So there's really no excuse.
As is often the case, I think every club in the world has this excuse, but I think if you look at how we're playing by the end of the season under Serdar Topraktepe, like I think even Serdar Topraktepe could have probably shithoused a better performance against clubs of that ilk than we did.
I think against something like a team like Bodo Glimt, I think you need to be good.
Yeah, I mean it's true. They're kind of underrated.
Like you still need to be good,
anyway.
right? Like you can't just shithouse that.
They've got a great coach.
Yeah,
they do.
and they have some good players as well. Of course, they're
Like Groenbeek.
exactly. Yeah.
Anyway, December 22nd, Beşiktaş parts ways with Riza Çalınbay and decides to play under none other than Serdar Topraktepe. December 22nd, it's announced that Ox has a full thickness tear. That doesn't sound right. In the posterior thigh muscle. December 26th, so he was done for the season. We thought at the time he actually made a few appearances. December 26th, the first half of the Super League has ended. Beşiktaş was in 4th place with 32 points. Worth putting a little tack in that one, maybe. December 29th, Beşiktaş announces that they've parted ways with Bayi. January 2nd, Semih Kılıçsoy's contract has been extended until 2028. That was a good move. January 7th, Fernando Santos becomes the new coach of Beşiktaş, which shocked all of us.
Yeah.
January 8th, Onana loaned to Marseille. January 11th, Beşiktaş sends 4 players to the African Cup. And January 14th, Amir Hadzimetovic suffers a ligament injury and is out for the season. January 18th, Rozier was loaned out to Nice. February 9th, Muçi and Musrati are transferred for a combined 22 million euros. And 2 days later, Tayfur Bingöl suffers an Adele injury. What, the British singer? I don't know. That must be a mistranslation. Anyway, his season is over.
That's also a ligament injury, I think.
I forgot the main Adele song. I'm in Beşiktaş mode now. I was going to start singing, but it's probably better we don't.
Yeah, I think pretty sure that's a hamstring injury as well.
Yeah. Anyway, March 21st, Semih Kılıçsoy surprisingly was removed from the national team squad, like right before the match. That was a low point.
Yeah.
April 7th, Beşiktaş calls for the elections for the TFF. It's a positive moment, I guess. April 13th, Beşiktaş parts ways with Fernando Santos and decides to continue with Serdar Topraktepe until the end of the season. April 27th, Beşiktaş loses all 4 matches it's played in the league against Galatasaray and Fener for the first time since 2014-2015. Oh, here we go, Kaan. So I guess we don't have to put this on next year's. On May 18th, it's already being called a low light. Hussein Yücel made statements about Mourinho. And then May 23rd, we beat Trabzonspor 3-2 in the Turkish Cup final and took home our 11th National Cup. And suddenly, the sun is brighter. The clouds have dispersed. May 26th, Beşiktaş which has played 56 matches this season, completed the season with 28 wins, 10 draws, and 17 losses. And that takes us till, that was yesterday, the 26th. Yep. Today is the 27th. Yep. So hello, everyone. A new day has dawned.
Yeah. Thank you, Sinan, for going over the chronological events of the season. And thank you, Kartal, for providing us with that so we didn't have to do it ourselves. So let's head over then to the next part of the podcast. We are going to go over Beşiktaş's low points, highlight points in more detail. So we're going to start off with the most disappointing transfer of the season. And as I was going to do earlier before Sinan reminded me of the chronological events overview, we're going to start with Kartal. And Kartal, who is your most disappointing transfer of the season?
I think it has to be Rebic for me. He's barely featured. At times shown what could have been. When he did feature, because he does have a clear quality and ability. He's got he can have a bit of pace behind him. He's got a good pass, good shot on him. But most of the time he looked uninterested, very unfit. He'd tire very quickly, and just he couldn't gain the trust of any of the managers. And apparently he was very lazy in training. And on top of that, was chronically injured as well, which is why I really didn't want him from the day he was first in the news. I said, look, I don't want this guy. I was very vocal about that in our group chat. I wanted El-Yunusi instead, who's someone else who we're linked with.
I was on your side on that one, by the way. I wanted El-Yunusi as well.
Yeah.
But I wasn't so much against Rebic. I wasn't against Rebic at all, actually. I was just more in favor of El-Yunusi because he's younger and, free as well, cheaper, wage-wise.
Yeah. Now, for me, it was mainly about the injuries and the fact that he's had a couple of great seasons in his careers, but the rest of them have just kind of been meh. And he came to us and he had an absolute stinker, to be honest.
Yep.
And alongside that, he's on like 2.5 or is it 2.75 million a year?
2.5.
So so we're going to have a tough time getting rid of him in the summer. Yep. I think for me, by far, he is the worst signing.
Yeah, I agree. Also, my worst transfer of the season. Sinan, I know you have somebody else. Who is yours? Your worst transfer of the season?
Yeah, and I could have obviously said the same, but I was just trying to find someone else to mention. It's worth mentioning. I wanted to talk about. Someone made a comment. Orhan Yigit mentioned that Rebic. I hoped he would contribute more. I've never seen such a careless Slavic player before.
Yeah, it's very unusual, uncharacteristic for Slavs for sure. They're usually very dedicated.
Got some light in here. Sorry, it's suddenly started raining, so it's like dark. Anyway, what was I just saying? So I said, for the sake of like picking someone else, I picked Bailly, and that's.
Oh, you know what? I am totally forgetting. I should be highlighting pictures. So there you go.
Oh yeah, there you go.
There you go.
There he is. There we go. Bailly, and I'm picking him just because and I've talked about this throughout the season. I'm going to exaggerate a little here, but I feel like we've signed like 40 central defenders in the last 4 years, and it's just this recycled,
not the last 4 years, like for the last decade, really. Like every
we could go all the way back. Exactly.
Every transfer window is like, Beşiktaş need 2 central defenders.
And even when we finally get like one, even if we finally get like one solid central back, the other guy always ends up being such a stinker that it becomes like, that's like the 11th best player on the pitch always.
Yeah.
Like,
or we can't hold on to them like Saiss or Pepe.
Oh yeah, exactly. Exactly. And like, like honorable mention to striker also, which is a position that's like historically kind of difficult, right? We'll get like Gomez and then we lose him, and then we got like Larin and Love,
Abubakar.
So and then finally Abu looks good, and then he kind of falls apart, because of his injury. So yeah, I mean, we've had a bit of a curse there too. But central back, by you're my dud.
Yeah.
And the only reason was he didn't even play especially poorly, but he just didn't seem plugged in. He was disinterested, and obviously, we all know how it ended up.
Yeah, gave away 2 penalties against Fenerbahce, and that kind of sealed the deal for him.
If anything, to be honest, apart from that Fenerbahce game, he was really bad. I think he should have actually given away 3 penalties. I think the ref let us off with one as well in that game. But I think apart from that game, Bailly was actually very good in the games he played.
He was
just far too unreliable.
Yeah, he was very good. He'd play a game and play really well, and then have to get subbed off at halftime, or he finished the game. But then, exactly. Then he couldn't play the next 3.
Yeah.
But the problem was we knew going in.
We knew this.
Yeah, we knew. And you can afford to take a gamble if you already have a good central back pairing or something, and then you're like, oh, you know what, we'll get Bailly in there for the rotation, and maybe we'll get a good season out of him, maybe we'll get a decent amount. But you can't get a player who has been that spotty with injuries as for the last, 6 years of his career or something, and bring him in with the idea of this is going to be what we're going to build our central defense around for the coming season or 2. No, you can't do that. This was known going into it. Everyone knew. I think with Ox, we all kind of gave it the benefit of the doubt, but with Bailly, you knew it was going to end like this. And it was just such a boneheaded move, a waste of money, and the only, redeeming quality of this transfer, I would say, is the fact that he actually left money on the table to rip up his contract and join Villarreal, where he started off well and then got injured. So,
shows character.
But to compound why I call him a dud, right? Because everything you guys have said is true. He actually played well for the most part. But like I said, you've got this issue where the central defender has been this Achilles heel for most of our fandom as Beşiktaş fans, and we still made that sort of blunder of a move by getting someone that's injury prone as him, and then B, that he was a part of this whole Kadrodici thing, so that he was considered such a kind of virus in the locker room that they had to kind of get him out of there, at any cost. So
I think that was more a power play to kind of force him out.
Probably.
I don't think he was. But I doubt he was a cancer in the dressing room.
I still, I wonder about all that. But just the fact that, that's his legacy with us now, So that sucked. That definitely sucked. And again, right, going into this transfer window now, is a central defender our top priority?
No, I think we have a bunch of top priorities. I don't think you can say this is our top priority. I think we need to get a lot of different. I think we have multiple top priorities, starting with the coach.
Yeah, that goes without saying. Or even the technical director, if you want to, All
right, so as I already said, Rebic is also my dud. I am going to pull that graphic up. I'm not going to spend too much time on it because Kartal already said everything that needed to be said. The only thing I would like to say, when he did play, like Kartal also said, he looked good. He just didn't play a lot, and he doesn't seem to have any particular desire to play. I think you have players that, if they pick up a knock, they say to the coach, I want to play. You have players who have a half serious injury and say, I want to play. And then you have players that stub their toe and are out for a month. That's Ante Rebic, and that's why he is my pick. But I think could have just as easily, I don't have a graphic for him, but I could have just as easily picked John Onana. 4 million euro down the drain. Hopefully we'll get some money back for it. He played roughly 600 minutes, a little bit over 600 minutes if you include the Coupe de la France, or the Coupe de France, for Marseille. So hopefully there will be some teams interested in him. Marseille did not trigger his buyout clause, but supposedly some Italian clubs and French clubs are interested in John Onana. So hopefully we can recuperate some of that 4 million euros in the summer. All right, then the next topic I wanted to talk about is the best transfer of the season. So we've gone from the worst to the best. I'll start with myself, if you guys don't mind. Actually, you know what? No, I'm gonna start with Sinan this time. I'm not gonna do that. Who's your top transfer, Sinan?
Oh boy. So I actually did mine sort of in response to Kartal again, just to have a little depth in the rotation. But actually, I'll stand by this. I feel like this is a good choice. Mucci. I'm gonna go with Enes Mucci.
Yeah.
Because I think he probably does have the highest resale value of anyone on the team right now, besides maybe Semi.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Is he coming in choppy for
Sinan,
you,
your voice is
Kartal?
cracking.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, yes, yeah.
All right, so Enes Mucci for Sinan. Yeah, good. He's shown great performances.
Yeah.
He's shown more anonymous performances, but he's been fit. He's played almost every single game except this last one against Kasimpaşa. Yeah, definitely a good transfer. I do agree with you. 22 when he came, now he's 23. Lots of resale value as well for him, and supposedly already some interest in him. And also, we've seen some good stuff already. He scored some good goals, including a very important one in the semi-final of the Cup that got us to the final of the Cup, which ultimately led to us winning it. Yeah.
No, and he offers two, like, whatever the outcome is with him, it's positive. Either he stays and we have a player to look forward to who's very exciting, or we make a bunch of money very soon.
And,
so
and
either way, we win.
Knock on wood, Mucci is an ideal profile of player to build around, because if you look at his injury history, he has zero injuries in his career. So knock on wood, it stays like that. But like, he's a player that will basically be fit for every single game of the season. If you can build around someone like that, that's ideal. Obviously, if we can sell him for a big profit, that's also good. I would hope that he'd stay at least another season.
Same.
But who knows?
Yeah,
maybe he
same.
has a great Euros. He's going to the Euros with Albania. Maybe he has a great tournament. And maybe maybe he moves on to the Premier League or something. All right, Kartal, let's go for your pick then. Who is your pick for the best transfer of the season?
For me, it's the Moose, Al-Musrati.
The Moose.
He's came under a lot of criticism from a portion of the fan base due to critical mistakes he made in the Galatasaray derby, where I actually think he played a very good game in that game, despite the own goal and some nerves at the start and getting sent off against Fenerbahce. I think prior to his injury in the Gaziantep game, he showed a lot of promise, showed a lot of quality. Phenomenal passer of the ball, long passes and short passes. He can literally see when they talk about players that can make your team turn from defence to attacking in an instant. He is that guy. That is Al-Musrati. That's what he offers. He can take the ball in your own half, and he's just phenomenal to start attacks. So he did have quite a few mistakes at the start of his career with us, and because of that, he did come under a lot of criticism, which some of it was warranted, to be honest. Not all of it, but some of it was warranted. Because obviously you can be the most talented man on the team, but if you're making mistakes that are costing you goals, costing you games, that doesn't really mean anything. But I quite likened Al-Musrati at the start to Masuaku at the start of last season, where you could see that he had clear quality, but he's making mistakes that was leading to goals. And I said about Masuaku back then, if he could iron them out, he'll be a great player for us. And then last season he did turn out to be a great player for us. I think we're going to see the same with Al-Musrati. After he got back from that injury after the Antep game, it took him a few games to get back up to speed, but I think especially in these last two games, the Hatayspor game is very good. He was subbed off minute 65. Then obviously we don't even need to talk about the cup game. It was a 10 out of 10 performance. Just God level boss in the midfield play for him, and he topped it off with a beautiful goal as well to win us the cup. I think he is the best signing we've made, and I think we're yet to see the fruits of it. I think next season he'll be one of the main players that will spearhead, hopefully, us contending for a title and a deep run in Europe, and hopefully at least a Turkish Cup as well.
For me, it has to be one of those two, right? Like, I think an honorable mention is definitely Jonas Svensson. Got him for free, definitely. And he's been absolutely solid, and I think he's going to be solid again next season. If I have to pick between Mucci and Musrati, I really don't know. I think Musrati is also a fantastic building block for a new team. The only issue I have my doubts about Musrati, and I still have those issues, and it has nothing to do with his playing ability, it's his injuries. I'm a little worried that he's going to be injury prone. And that's like when everyone was like on the fence on him, like, oh, you know, like when people were criticizing him for his mistakes, I'm not worried about those mistakes. I'm pretty sure like he's going to iron those out. He just looked a little sluggish. He wasn't 100%. Like those mistakes will go. Like also as the team around him gets more used to him and all that, I think those mistakes will get removed from his game for the most part. I don't have any concerns about that. My biggest concern with Musrati is his injuries. But if he can stay fit, I think from the two, Musrati and Mucci, I think Musrati is probably going to turn out to be the best one, the best transfer.
I agree. Yeah.
Because I don't think Mucci will stick around long enough. I do think he will be moved on. Maybe not this not this summer, but maybe the summer after. And whereas Musrati is somebody I could see staying and sticking around for 5 years or something.
6 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I am going to pick Al-Musrati as well as my transfer of the season.
Before we move on to the next topic, let me go through our chat real quickly. We've got a lot of comments.
Yeah.
I got to go back a little bit. You got to jog your memory about what we've been talking about. So one, Menon Shedefolu talked about how losing Tadic and Redmond showed that the club had literally no plan. I think we can all agree on that. Orhan Yiğit mentioned, great way of improving English. Beginning of learning English is boring, but listening something you like can make it less boring. And how people improve. We all agree on that, probably. Menon said he forgot about the whole stadium crap. Embarrassing. I think he means the naming of the stadium, which was indeed a long, drawn-out, embarrassing process. This is an interesting question. I mean, So, Orhan asked, guys, I have a question for you. Ozzy or Jedson? Who's better company for Al-Musrati for the next season? For me, I think it would be Jedson, just given his age, his upside, all that. But on the other hand, I guess one could debate whether or not we're going to be keeping Jedson, right? Like we might. I mean, what do you guys think before I go on to further comments?
Is he talking about Ozan Uzak?
Right? Prime
I would
Ozan,
assume Ozzy has to be Ozan. I think he might mean for next season.
Oh,
there's been talk of Ozan coming back.
Okay, if it's for next season, definitely Jedson because Ozan is done. Ozan is done. He can't even play for Fortuna Sittard. Like he's not gonna come. I mean, I if he takes a super low wage, like not even 200k, like 50k or something, he can come back. He can train with the team. He can be a squad player. I don't care. But like Ozan Özyakups' career as a big player is over. It's sad
squad
because
depth.
he was extremely talented, and love the guy. Did so much for Beşiktaş, but But if we're talking prime Ozan or Jedson, then I think actually Ozan is very similar to Al-Musrati in a way, more a passer of the ball. So I don't know if that's that's necessarily compatible. So I would go for Jedson still. Because I think that the dynamism that Jedson offers is something that people don't
overlook.
Yeah, they overlook it and don't recognize how important that is. I think we've seen it this season when Jedson wasn't available, that we just aren't nowhere near as good as we are with Jedson. And I think that speaks to his quality.
I think that not Jedson or Ozan would be an ideal partner for Al-Musrati. I think someone like, not Tolgay Arslan, but someone like Tolgay Arslan would be the best suited to playing with Al-Musrati, because Tolgay was a very well-rounded midfielder. He was combative, good dribbler, good passer, good shooter as well. Like, he wasn't as good as Ozan at passing, but he was good. Like Ozan, let's say Ozan was exceptional passing. Tolgay was good to very good. Maybe not as good as he's not as good as Jedson at dribbling. Like Jedson's an exceptional ball carrier, but he's a good dribbler. Jedson's a phenomenal ball winner. Tolgay was pretty competitive. He was pretty good at winning balls. So I think someone like that, who's maybe not like like phenomenal, like top class at one thing, but someone like tall guy that's good at basically everything that you need to be good at in the midfield. I think if you put a guy like that beside Al-Musrati, I think that would be ideal.
Ömer Gural just mentioned in the chat as well that Amir could be an ideal partner for Al-Musrati once he's back.
That's interesting. I mean, he could be more focused on more of his offensive skill set, which is not lacking. I mean, it's actually a real shame that a guy like Sally can't be relied on to play at his like max potential, right? Because we've all seen him play so well on occasion, and it would be so useful if you could just rely on him to perform at his highest level. But you know, he's obviously lacking in consistency. Anyway, let me move on to some more commentary here. Menan Sherefolu, I do feel like the statement regarding Mourinho was a lot more classy than any Talisca talk. Yuzel was straightforward and didn't oversell anything. You know, I think you could debate if even putting Mourinho out there is maybe putting Mourinho out there is an oversell, but I definitely think the Talisca stuff was especially classless.
I think it's fine to say stuff like that, but then you need to be super close to a deal, or you need to have already agreed or something. Like, you can't. It's with the history, no. And especially,
but all that I will grant you that all of that Talisca talk was. I mean, it's been classless, and it remains classless. I hate how whenever there's any sort of like hope of aspiration, whatever it is, coming out of certain members in the media or even on our board, that people kind of default to Talisca, and for me, it's a lazy solution.
It's because he's one of the few players left from that golden generation that is still young enough to come back, right? Like, he's the only one left.
Is he even though? Like, I don't know.
He is the only one left
in theory, on paper.
Yeah, who else is left, right? Like Mario Gomez retired. Abubakar is with us. Quaresma,
no, I'm just debating if it's even feasible. Do you really want to bring in Talisca? Because he is, I think, is he 30 now?
He's 30.
Yeah.
He just turned 30, yeah.
Right? So he's now sort of past that threshold. You're still going to have to pay, I'm guessing, like 8 million at least or something. He's sort of floundered. He's floundered in the Saudi league now for a few years, right? Like, not even playing at the highest level.
I don't think you can say floundered when he's been one of the best players in that league for the last couple of years.
But they haven't even won a title, right?
No, but I mean, that doesn't matter, right? That's not his fault. Like, that's not his fault that
I'm not sold on Talisca.
He could be a risk for sure. I mean, look. If you look at the Saudi league, if you look at the level of defending that happens in the Saudi league, like, look at Bernard Mensah. I think he scored 14 goals in the Saudi league this season.
Man.
Nkudu scored 15 goals.
Georges Kevin, the GOAT, the Saudi GOAT.
Yeah, Georges Kevin, indeed. Like, 15 goals. Like, I mean, that's a player in a good season. He scores you 7 or 8 in the Turkish league. Bernard Mensah is a player.
That was his best season.
Yeah, exactly. And Bernard Mensah is somebody in a good season, scores you maybe 5 or 6 goals. Like, you know, that guy's got 14 goals in the Saudi league. Like, and let me tell you, if you look at some of those goals and you look at the defending, it's like they're not. It's like they're not standing there. Like, there's there's a significant difference there.
They're like tackling dummies. No. Anyway, moving on. RQ7. I think.
I wonder who that is.
He said, especially since he flew himself in. I think he's referring to how we talked about how Ox should have been on that calendar.
Yeah, exactly. Ox should have been on there with the date and time of when he flew himself in.
Thank you for that note, Q7.
I wonder who that is.
Who could it be?
Yeah.
We got Jason talking about how Rebic used to be a fighter. No idea what happened at Milan. Yeah, I think we all are a little bit confounded by that. And then Umar Gunal, who you've mentioned, Kaan, he's a new contributor here in the chat. He said the best signing was Mucci, the worst was Rebic or Amarte. And I'm glad he said that because it's probably worth giving Amarte honorable mention as far
as... Actually,
there's so many bad signings, it's hard to pick.
Yeah,
there's so many bad signings, it's hard to pick.
But Amarte is a great shout because also high wage, and we're stuck with him for 3 years. Going to be hard to offload him. So I think he's actually worse than Onana.
I think Murphy's going to go to Celtic. I think he's coming beside me. He's coming to Glasgow. I think that's going to happen.
I'm not flipping you off. I'm crossing my fingers. So fingers crossed.
Same. So then Mucci could be the next Mertens. I think Dries Mertens. If they play him in position instead of keeping him out of the game on the wing. Yeah, I think we'd all much prefer to see him in that central mid number, 10 role.
He's definitely
a lot better on in the 10 than the wing. To be honest, I don't think he's good enough on the wing. On the 10 though, at the 10 he can be very dangerous.
Then Mario Vargas says Mucci hands down. It must be his, I think, transfer of the year.
Yeah.
Umer Gunal says Musrati, which is clever, I guess. And then he says, do not bring back Ozan. So I think we're basically caught up now as far as, that's... and then you mentioned the Amir Hadziometovich comment. Do we want to talk about the rest? Maybe we'll talk about Hussein Yücel and the rest of these comments in the next section.
Amir said something else. He said journalists just use Talisca's name to generate clicks. We all know he is an expensive luxury player, and currently we need to spend this money on 3 to 4 good players instead of one luxury player. And I mean, I think 100% agree. When you have Ernest Mucci
100%.
on your squad list, you can't go and get Talisca. Like, if you sell Mucci, then you could say, okay, we get Talisca, but then, like you make... Let's say you sell Mucci for 20 million. You make 10 million profit minus 10% that goes to Legia. So you make 9 million. And then you're going to spend it all on 1 year's wages on Talisca? I don't know. I mean, I was very much...
Thanks.
I think much like most Beşiktaş fans, I love Talisca too, but it's too much money, man. It's unless, if the Saudis want to get rid of him because they need to make room on their squad for more high-profile foreigners, and they're willing to pay a portion of his wages, okay, I'd take the risk then. But if we have to fork it out all on our own, then no, sorry, that's just not gonna happen.
I've got a hot take here. I think that Mucci's a better all-around player than Talisca is.
Is that a hot take though? He's clearly, I think.
Cheers to that.
I mean,
another cheers. I agree.
Talisca is the better goal scorer.
Of course, yeah. No, I fully agree. Talisca's a better goal scorer. He's more dangerous in front of goal. Whether it's from long range, heading ability, like inside the box, he is. But the guy a lot of the time couldn't play a simple 5-10 meter pass.
Exactly.
He'd have amazing cross passes though. Like he'd have some.
Bizzali was phenomenal at switching play.
Yeah,
he's a very strange player.
Yeah,
so a lot of the time people forget this because it's been a while, and also it was a successful period for us. But when he wasn't scoring, he was often like a man down for us. Like people forget that.
He is the type of player that you really need to build your entire system around. I mean, if you remember when he was getting linked to Manchester United, I think we were all kind of like, yeah, he's a phenomenal player, but that's not going to work in the Premier League because they're not going to build around this guy. He's not big enough. He's not big enough of a name for that. If they bring in a Neymar or they bring in Cristiano Ronaldo or those types of players, of course you're gonna build your team around it. But Anderson Talisca, for people in Turkey, Anderson Talisca is a big deal. But for people in for the Premier League, Anderson Talisca is just another decent, another talented player in a pool of ridiculously talented players that, you need to build around a guy like him to suit him. I think Mucci is somebody you can slot into a lot of different teams. But Talisca is the type of player that if you don't build around him, he's not going to fit, because he doesn't fit a particular mold. He's not really a number 10. He's not an 8. He's not a striker. What is he really? Yeah. What is Talisca?
That's why he's a luxury player, as almost said.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, that was a perfect synopsis, actually.
Yeah.
So let's go back to our list, our review.
Yeah, let's go over to the next bit of it. So we got the best transfer out of the way. So the next topic is the most improved player. And Kartal, I'm going to stick with you on this one. Who, according to you, is the most improved player of the season?
There's only one choice.
I think so too. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're going to be unanimous here, and I'll say Neji Pusa.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it was been the
That's
worst
a great
season
photo.
in my lifetime.
Yeah.
Like the worst season that we had before this. 2 years ago was the worst season in my lifetime, and then until this season, it's now taken over.
Was he
in terms of league performance?
Was this his best ever performance? You think, like season wide?
100%.
I think it's possible, but at the same time, it might just be that everyone else was so shit that we all paid more attention to Egypt doing well as centre back. That's another possibility. I mean, we're talking about like 26 years I've been on this planet, been following Beşiktaş since I can remember, and this has been the worst season. And I think it's quite fitting that in this worst season, the most improved player is probably Neji Pusa, because everyone else around him has been so shit.
At 33 years old as well, I think, like he's not spring chicken anymore at this point.
Yeah, exactly. He's 33. Yeah, that's right. He's from 1991.
Yeah.
No, I don't think it's a debate that this was his best season yet as a pro.
He was very good.
And to the point where, like, for me, I would argue that he's been sort of a detriment in most of our, most of the time we've been watching him, except for a period where he had sort of just broken through and was very useful in a kind of utility role. But in the last decade, it's been kind of rough going for Necip, and we've sort of, part of this whole carousel of central defenders that we keep getting is because he's not been the answer. But this year, he's been one of our better, more steady performing central defenders, especially when you look at how Kali has slipped on a number of occasions.
I think he was solid for most of the season, even he's had a couple of slip ups in the last month or two, but all in all, I think he's been extremely solid. Very uncharacteristic for him.
Umer Gural raises an interesting question, and I thought I was wondering this when I was formulating my response. He says, "Does Semi count for this topic?"
No, he does not, because I particularly told the guys to exclude youth players, because otherwise I knew everyone was just gonna say Semi.
But he did feature in the rotation last season. A little bit at the end of the year, didn't he?
I think he made one appearance last season.
So
he played against Antalya, and he played one more game, I think, as well. 2 games, I think he played.
But no, we were excluding youth players from this, and I still count Semi as that. Yeah, I will specify that for the next one. So, all right, I agree with you guys. Neji Pusa is also my pick. No need to bring that graphic up again. So let's see. Dud of the season. So the worst player of the season. Sinan, we're on you, so I'm gonna start with you.
I'm gonna try not to go into histrionics. I'm gonna try not to be too negative, but I actually think this might be a shout for one of the worst seasons I've ever seen in a Beşiktaş kit. Onur Bulut. Step on up, Mr. Bulut. I think Onur easily gets this award in my book, and I think you could probably make the argument that, at least for the last decade, this was probably one of the worst seasons in a Beşiktaş jersey.
Yeah, fully agree.
That's it. I have nothing else to say.
By the way, guys, so many people active in the chat. Please also drop a comment as well. So don't just chat. Also drop a comment, please. Really appreciate it when you guys drop a comment.
Don't worry. Also, we'll come back around. We'll touch up on all of your
we'll answer all your questions
soon.
We're not at the point where we have to answer 10,000 questions, so we'll definitely touch on all of these. Kartal, your pick for dud of the season, my friend.
I'm going to go with Trevic again for the same reasons I mentioned earlier on. Injury prone, disinterested, unfit. Had, maybe not from me, but from other people who had high expectations. And really, with the quality he has, if he had a more serious mindset, he should have been a key player for us.
Yeah.
So for me, that's why he's my dud of the season.
I mean that's it's an easy. thought exercise to imagine him as having a terrible season. One thing. So Umer Gunal said that for worst, he has Abubakar easily, sentimentally and physically. My only retort to that, Umer, is that if you look, so Kaan kindly sent us like a thread of the top 25 goals of our season, and I don't know if it was ranked or if that was just like, I mean, it seemed like it was a little chronological. It was chronological,
yeah. It's for you to pick, you know.
But it's worth noting that Abu did have, I would say, about like 5 or 6 absolute bangers to start the season with in Europe, and a couple in the league.
He got us through the qualifiers.
Obviously.
He did.
Yeah, like
he did.
So he totally had a terrible season, and he totally faded out, and it's completely looking like his career is finished, at least with Beşiktaş.
I have to agree with Ömer though, because I think he's right. Because if you look at the potential of what a player should be capable of, and what he should be bringing, and also what he's he's the top earner on the team. He is normally the guy you should be looking toward for carrying the front line. And I think one of our issues, other than earlier in the season during the qualifiers, throughout the season has been we haven't really had a dedicated striker. Simi's kind of been in and out of that position, but he's more played on the wing. And we've kind of been forced, which is also for the main part due to the fact that we don't really have a lot of depth on the wings due to Rebic, for example, being an absolute disappointment. But I think that Abubakar, for what you would expect from him, could definitely be the biggest disappointment of the season.
That said, I mean, you have to factor in. Sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
No.
Oh, you have to factor in injuries, though. And that's the thing with Abu. Even in a good year, right? Like last year,
long. He's been. I mean.
But dude, even like when we brought him in, like the risk of having Abu as your number one, like without, I mean, part of why you needed Cenk when we first brought him in was you needed like a reliable backup because he's got that injury history, and then he has the bad injury in AFCON, which sidelines basically the rest of his season. So I mean, you bring in this whole Kadro Dishi thing. I mean, that probably adds to the level of disappointment. To be honest, no, I mean, I get it. Yeah. I get it. For me, when you combine the good start to the season with the fact that he's injured, like he has slightly more of a pass than like Onur Bulut, who has no excuse for just being absolutely terrible all year.
I don't think he gets a pass, Sinan, because I think a big part of the reason why our season has gone as poorly as it is because arguably your number one star decided not to show up for 80% of the season. And I think if we made this argument the other day, I don't remember if we did it on air or if we were just talking about it in our group chat, but I remember saying, I think if we wouldn't have been in a position at the start of the season where we had our striker position covered, and we would have been the team to bring in Paul Onuachu, we would have had a completely different season. Yeah, so I mean,
there's no doubt about that. Yeah.
If you have to look at it this way: if Abubakar isn't there at the start of the season, okay, you don't get those wonder goals in the qualifiers, but then you are forced to bring in a new striker, and we've missed a striker all season. Imagine if we would have brought in Onuachu. Like, the fact that Abubakar is there disables us from bringing in a striker because we weren't in a position to bring one in, and I think that also should be factored into this. So I hadn't even thought of this. Like, my pick was going to be Onur Bulut as well. Not because I don't think, like, the criteria for this wasn't like biggest drop off. It was just, who was the worst player. And I think the worst player I've seen this season, who's played a lot of minutes, is definitely Onur Bulut. Another honorable mention is the following man, and I'm going to bring up right now. Where is he? The picture, blah, blah, blah, blah, blah. If you are wondering, by the way, why I constantly disappear off screen, is because I have shit eyes. I need to look really close. Where is he? Here he is. He's my boy. Umut Merash. He's fucking shit too, bro. So, like, Onur and Umut, they can both take a hike. Good thing Umut's contract is out, so he's gone out the door. Now we just need to get rid of Onur. But yeah, no, I think Omer's point is great, and I fully agree with him.
I agree.
Abubakar, yeah.
I don't think we should have. I mean, and Kaan, we were actually saying this going into this season. It wasn't, building on the success that Abu had at the end of last year wasn't realistic, right? Like you couldn't expect him to maintain that form.
But if he gets, I do think it's realistic to expect 15 league goals in the season from Aboubakar.
Yeah, that's for sure. But you could argue that without the injury, he might have actually had 15.
Yeah, but he's been back for months. He's been back for months.
He got 5. He got 5 goals.
You mean in the league specifically, right? I think he had 12 in total or something.
He's got 12 in total, but all
5 in the league.
They all came in Europe almost. Like he's got 5 league goals, and like most of those are just penalties. I think. You'd expect him to score at least 15 goals. And he's been back from he's not really had any big injuries or anything. Like he came back from the AFCON with an injury, I think, but
he had a viral infection in October, and I think that's what really caused the problems for him. He came back a lot slimmer. There was accusations that he had a hair transplant, which he did, but he had it in the summer, not during the season. So I think that there was a lot of unnecessary mobbing and hate given to Aboubakar because of the media, and the board I think should have done a better job to protect him. But obviously, the virus or not, he should have been able to get back in shape and have a half-decent season at least.
It does really depend. Like I do remember that as well. Yeah, he did, and depend. Like let's say he had like diverticulitis or something. Like that can fuck you up. And you're not gonna come back from that in a couple of months. So if he had something serious, and I forgot about this, but I do think if it was really serious what he had, and I think it actually was. It was reported back in the day that it was pretty. Yeah,
it was
serious.
like late October.
Yeah,
like October, November time this happened.
So like if it's something along the lines of diverticulitis or something, then it could justify why he is still at such a low level. But also, I mean, I think the perception as well is that he just doesn't give a shit. And
I don't think that's true.
I don't know either. Like I saw like an analysis of him from the Trabzon game, and like some guy was saying, "Oh, he was sabotaging the team." I was like, "What?" Like,
no, that's agree.
I'm like, "What game? What game? Am I watching a different game?" Because like I thought he did quite well coming on against Trabzon. Actually, like he made some really key clearances.
He lost the ball once. Apart from that, I thought he was decent.
Got dispossessed once. He had 100% passing accuracy. He only had 6 passes, but still, he alleviated some pressure and all that. So I
almost scored as well.
He did. Yeah.
I mean, and it's also worth noting that like our season fell off the tracks so early this year that it just genuinely made more sense to play a guy like Jackson Muleka, right? For much of the second half of the season, Abu was theoretically available, but like, do you really want to play a guy who is like perpetually injured, significantly I mean, he's well past 30 at this point, injury prone. You've got a guy like Muleka who you want to increase the resale value of, so you could theoretically sell him for something, down the line. It just made more sense to play Muleka or Semi, who I know Kartal, most of the season you advocated for him as a striker. So, I mean, I think we had better options to play given the context of our season. If we were in the in the race for the championship, perhaps there would have been a reason for us to bring Abu in, more often and get his form back up going into the late portion of the season. But like that, there was no need, and I think most of us kind of recognized where he is in his career and that realistically, no doubt he had a fantastic season last year, and I think we were all kind of like, whoa, he still has that in his bag. I don't know. For me, a part of it was like this year was him coming down to earth.
I always
where we are as a club. Like there wasn't a lot of need for him to be.
Yeah. I always felt he went from in his first stint being a tank and a monster up top, like a physical beast, from becoming a sniper in his second stint. And more so now in his third stint. Like just a sniper, and he has like that physical. Yeah. He's still built like a tank, and he still looks great, but he's nowhere near.
You don't see it translate to the pitch.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He used to bully defenders. Like you couldn't get the ball off of him. And that's he's transformed. It's like he's a different player now.
Yeah, but it's like the injury finally caught him, though, right? I mean, you expected this drop off over the years, and I think even when we first brought him in, there was like. I think we were all very hopeful, but there was always this fear of like, given his injury history, could this be kind of a recurring thing? Like, do we have an actual solution up top? And he against all the odds, he was fantastic. And I think like I'll never have like terrible feelings about Abu like down the line, 10 years from now, because he gave us a lot, And I mean,
he's
a lot
won
of people
2 titles and 2 cups with us. Like it's not bad.
Yeah.
But like Omer said as well in the comments now, like last year we were talking who's better, Icardi or Aboubakar, and there was a legitimate argument to be made. I think at the end of the day, I still think the answer would have been Icardi. But there was at least you could at least argue it last season, and this season there's no argument to be had at all. And that is.
I've got to take here. I think you guys will agree, but I think a lot of people might not. As Kaan said, in his first stint with us, he was a tank, just a physical beast, dominated defenders. I think gradually over time, if you consider last season and then compare to his first 2 stints, I think he gradually got worse in the game, but got better at finishing and scoring goals. He became more prolific. Whereas, and I actually think last season when he came back, although he was prolific and scored all these wonder goals, inside the game he was pretty shit for the most part. And I think this season we just saw the goals dry up, and he was shit in the game. So it's like that. It's like when you play long balls, though, you can't. Yeah,
he wasn't impressive last season. I wouldn't say he was shit, but he was like kind of like kind of meh. Yeah. But this season he's just bad most of the time.
Yeah. He can't hold it. Like last season as well, I felt like his hold-up play wasn't very good.
Yeah, no, you're right.
But see when he's scoring goals, people are like, but he's scoring every game. But this year the goals dried up, and then people start to notice, or every ball that goes up the park is like bouncing off a wall, just going back to the opponent.
Yeah,
because he can't hold it up.
Yeah,
that kind of thing starts. People start to notice it more when it's not being covered up by goals. I mean, I noticed it, but maybe your casual viewer that doesn't really know much about. Well, I don't claim to be an expert of football, but I've watched Beşiktaş my whole life, so I know a wee bit about football. Like someone that watches things more carefully, like probably would have noticed that before. But I think the fact that he's been shit in game for a while was noticed more because the goals dried up this season.
Yeah. Exactly.
I do want to say though, that last point you made, Omer, in the chat about the him almost costing us the cup. I think that's really unfair though, because like there's a lot of things that went wrong on that corner where we conceded on.
I think he was pushed.
Yeah, he got pushed. And I think if anyone is to blame there, it's probably Masuaku for letting Pepe go.
Falling asleep on Pepe, yeah.
But that's, that happens. Like,
it's also a striker in defense, right? It's not like...
Yep, and they cleared away 2 corners before that, like you said.
Yeah, dangerous corners as well. Like, so, like, I don't think it's fair to try and skate, because I've seen some of that on Twitter as well, like people trying to, like, point their fingers and like acting like he's trying to sabotage the team and stuff like that. And like, I'm sorry,
I don't believe that for a second.
If you saw his reaction after we eliminated Ankaragücü as well, like he was really happy. He was really happy after.
He's always very passionate. He's always very passionate on the touchline. If you pay attention.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of stuff being said about Aboubakar in the media that like. Yeah. I think they deliberately tried to put the fans against him. And sometimes it's justified. Like I think he did do us dirty in the past, but we only know part of that story.
A great example is that bullshit this season that he got a hair transplant.
Yeah,
he never.
Yeah, it's a puppet.
He done that in off season.
Yeah,
exactly. Basically, just trying to ruin the perception of him. That's what Al-Gabin's perception.
Yeah.
So they tried to ruin his the perception of him from the public, and it was successful. Everyone believed it, and. To be honest, the club should have done a much better job of protecting him in that time, because
even international media picked up on it. By the way, like in the UK and stuff, they were like making fun of it as well, and like
Like, can you blame a guy for checking out if his own club's not going to protect him when all this bullshit news has been spread?
Not just that, but also like you come on as a sub and you get booed. It's like
we've talked about how our fans were just terrible all year. Yeah, it is. Our fans. You know what? How about that? The only caveat, because I do still think, I mean, if you really want to talk about drop-off, maybe it's Abu, just because of how amazing.
I know where you're going with this.
But as far as the dud, I still have Onur Bulut. But if you really want to get creative with it, I would maybe give it to our fans.
Yeah.
How about that? How about that for a creative
I think
answer?
that is a really out-of-the-box great shout.
Yeah.
Our fans were like booing Muleka, Taifour, Abu, like booing guys as they're coming onto the pitch. You want them to come out and give you a goal to turn a match, and you're booing them? Like, no.
Yeah.
Our fans. I changed my answer.
Couldn't agree more. That's actually a good shout. Like, definitely a portion of the fans deserve to be on the dud of the season, and also not just that, but also the fact, like, what's with all these season ticket holders? Like, this season, I've never seen it like
showing up.
It's always been kind of like that, where people buy season tickets and they cherry pick the games they'll go to, but it's never been this bad. Like, we've allegedly sold out all our season tickets this season, I believe, 21,000 or something like that, and like our average attendance is like 22 or something, 22,000 maybe this season. And
you
like,
count on one hand, and at times the stadium is actually full this year.
Yeah, and it's usually it is almost always the season ticket holders that those tickets aren't getting picked up. And how this whole controversy arose with the fake Congress members. I am genuinely wondering whether the Ahmet Nurçebi board sold a bunch of season tickets to ghosts. You know what I mean? Like,
to get votes or whatever.
People. Just like maybe they put in their own money, or they didn't even put the money at all. Season tickets are sold out. Yeah, right. Like, that's how it feels. So
I have to say, I attended my first match in the stadium, right, at the home opener against Pendik, and the only portion that was not, because like we had every reason to be excited going into this season.
Yeah, sure.
And the only portion that wasn't filled was the season ticket holders.
We all kind of knew, Sinan, that this wasn't going to be a title year. I think we all knew that going into the season. So I wouldn't say we were too excited, but we did still think
you can still be excited without it being a title. But the chances of us going to win the title next season are pretty low. But I feel super excited about next season because there's
so that because there's going to be a lot of new things.
Yeah.
The new balls first summer.
Look, it's anecdotal, but I flew from New York to Istanbul to see the home opener. You know what I mean? Like, there are still like. Of course, it wasn't like a thrilling season that we were like, definitely going to win something. But I don't know. It's a home opener, man. Like, that was a little bit jarring. I'm not going to lie. To see season ticket holders not showing up for the home opener was like, is this like a new constant? That was definitely
especially for the opener. Yeah, you 100% expect it to be packed. Anyway, let's move on to the next subject. Otherwise, this is going to be a 3-hour podcast.
We're already away.
So the next one is going to be goal of the season. So, guys in the chat, feel free to let us know what your goal of the season is. I'm going to start with Kartal here. Kartal, your goal of the season, dear sir.
It might have just been recency bias.
And caveat, Al-Musrati's goal in the cup is not an option. Yeah. Not an option, because otherwise everyone picks that goal. So
that's too obvious.
Yeah, we're gonna pick another goal. Obviously, Al-Musrati's goal in the cup to win the cup is the goal of the season. There's no denying that. Let me show you that goal again. No,
come on!
Not gonna do that. But Kartal, let's hear your goal of the season.
It might just be recency bias, but the first goal that came to my head was Semi's goal yesterday.
Yeah,
I mean, 18-year-old prodigy, like beating 3 players in such a tight space and then finishing beautifully past the keeper. Does it get much better than that? Especially after to close such a bad season on a nice note like that. Just a beautiful goal from the bright spot of the season. It was very nice, and because of that, it was my goal of the season. Apart from Al-Musrati's goal, of course.
All competitions, by the way, guys. I just got the question in the chat. So, goal of the season doesn't matter which competition. So, League, Europe, Cup, doesn't matter. So Kartal's choice was Semi's goal yesterday against Kasimpaşa, something in Belgium we call it a slalom. Slalom, yeah. So Yeah, it's a great goal, no doubt. Sinan, your goal of the season.
So honestly, I was going to pick the same one, but again, for the sake of adding a little, diversity to the selection, so on a personal note, I was going to pick the Zainutinov goal against Kiev that secured us going through, and of course that's also tinged with a personal story. I was in Istanbul. I had attended the home opener. I actually met up with, speaking of Haber Kartal, Aaron Armstrong, a sort of person in the Twitter Beşiktaş Twitterverse, and my friend Batuhan, who's in Istanbul. So we were watching the game. Zainutinov scores the game winner. I was dancing. We had a lot of alcohol. So on a personal level, it was a very
that was the away game though.
Yeah, that's right. Because we played the other leg. Yeah, that's true. And it was, I think, maybe Abu who scored.
Was it not a pub in Bebek you were in? Is that right?
We were in Bebek, which was also Kartal, your recommendation, you and your brother. So
it was the best place in Istanbul for me. I love Bebek.
It was a confluence of events that was just really special. We were in a beautiful place, having a good time, scored a big goal. I think Aaron put me doing a little dance on Twitter that went sort of
I did see that,
Beşiktaş viral, I guess. But so that was fun. And that was a special goal on a personal level. But if I want to go on the technical level, I went through that list that Kaan sent us of the top 25 or whatever it was, and the Abu goal versus Tirana, where he touches it on the volley into the side net.
Brilliant goal.
Stunning.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah.
Stunning.
Yeah. Great
So
goal.
there we go.
My pick was not in the top 25 actually, and I'm gonna pick a goal that most people. It's not a particularly beautiful goal, but my goal is Simi's goal against Kasimpaşa in the first half of the season. If you remember the Rasicka cross, hard low cross, and Simi sliding it past the far post.
From an angle, right? Yeah.
Exactly, from an incredibly difficult angle. And for me, that is the goal of the season because I've been following Simi's career for as much as you can, really. Obviously, under 17 games don't get broadcasted. Under 19 games sometimes get broadcasted on YouTube. So I've watched a bunch of those. But it's hard to tell really from a player making that transition from the youth level to professional level. And I've always known, obviously, people who follow this kind of stuff know Simi was a big talent, but we've had so many big talents over the last 2 decades, and lots of them ended up in the İkinci League or the Üçüncü League or something, Look at Muhammed Demirci, look at Batuhan Karadeniz, look where those guys ended up. So
those are some good names.
Big talent, but you always have to wait and see how it actually translates to senior level. But when I saw that goal, I think I even said it back then, that for me was the moment I knew Simi was really special, because all his goals this season, I think, are worthy of consideration, because I don't think there's an ugly goal amongst them. I think they're all individually very nice goals. I think they're all worthy of being on a highlight reel. Not a single penalty in them. I think not a single tap in, because you can't call this slide. You can't call this a tap.
No way.
Because this is a type of chance. 90% of strikers put this in the side netting or in the stands. So for me, this really showed this is a special kid, because this is not a goal that any striker scores. I don't think you have 3 strikers in the Turkish league that scored that goal. I genuinely don't think so. It's just
I fully agree.
Yeah, so it's not a particularly beautiful goal, but it is a very difficult goal, and it just shows you how much of a goal getter he is. So that's my goal of the season. Sinan, do you maybe want to go over some of the comments? Some people have.
You pegged me for that one. So Umer Gural said League semi versus Kasimpaşa, which I think was yesterday. And like I said, I was going to pick that one too, but I knew Kartal had selected it. Stole my thunder a little there. And then in the Cup, Musrati, that's default, I think, for all of us.
Yeah, that is the goal of the season, let's be honest.
And then he mentions, don't forget Tayfur versus Bodo Glimt.
Yeah.
Which was,
consolation
also a
goal.
spectacular goal. And I think if you really I was actually also going to give honorable mention to Jedson against Hatay, which again, slight recency bias, but that was a stunner.
He scored another stunner. He scored another stunner against Kartal, I think.
I saw on that, and then Jason, our friend, I won't give his identity away. We've made that mistake a few times. A goal I liked from the season was Emrecan Terzi versus Lugano, because it was a young player scoring in Europe. Yeah, that's a good shout.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't recall the goal specifically, but yeah, anytime you have a youth player scoring in Europe.
I think that was in the 0-2.
It was,
yeah. All right, then the player of the season, and this time I'll start with you, Mr. Sinan.
Player of the season,
MVP, most valuable player.
You guys have to pick someone else. I'm just kidding, because it's such an obvious choice. Semi Kılıçsoy. Semi has given us, even before Mucci and Al-Musrati arrived, he gave us hope. He gave us a reason to keep watching.
I don't have a Semi graphic, believe it or not.
Oh my God!
Yeah, let me get one. Let me get one in here while you keep talking.
No, but I don't think people should ever underestimate the impact that Semi has had on us this year, as far as just making a terrible season, something that you can stomach, just that little bit, something that keeps you watching on the weekend, when it's probably not a good idea for your psyche, for your mentality, right? You still, I don't know, man, he is a prospect, and you mentioned it, right? We've been burned by so many of these kids. Who we think are gonna solve all of our problems and then fizzle out. Bachwan and Mohamed were probably the best examples I think you could come up with. But
I just got him in the middle of the screen there. I'm not gonna bother.
No, I'll keep my arm around him over here. No, he's I can't speak highly enough of what we've seen out of this kid. And as you said, the quality that he's put out there, the goals he's scored, just looking at the goals, it's so obvious he's not just, some prospect that might make it. He's got talent that's undeniable. The Kun Aguero, comparisons are very, I think, appropriate. He's just, he's the best Beşiktaş product we've seen in maybe my lifetime. Let's just be serious about it, right?
Sargan at least.
Remember Slaven? Well, no, okay, yeah, I guess, but he wasn't ours, right? He came up.
No. He
was. But we didn't.
But didn't he play for some tiny club first?
I think you're thinking Alpine, maybe. But
maybe, yeah.
But Sergen, we're none of us are old enough to have seen his debut. So
exactly, and that's because I remember when Slaven Bilic said that he wanted. You guys remember when Slaven Bilic said he wanted 11 Nejips? And right, I think we all knew what he meant by that. He wanted 11 players that were committed and dogged in their pursuit of a W. I think he meant the sort of intangibles, right? But 11 semis, as far as 11 players of semis quality. Now we're talking.
I do have a semi graphic. Look. I mean, and I even made it so that it's cut out and everything. This is the one I used for the thumbnail. So
No, it's he belongs. He belongs on this podcast.
He does. All right, Kartal, I assume you are gonna also go with Simi.
Yeah, I really don't think I need to add anything. Simi Kılıçsoy is definitely the MVP of the season for us.
Yeah.
I mean, if you were to make this,
make him bigger.
If you were to make this season a movie, it'd probably be called Beşiktaş episode 23-24. A New Hope, the Simi Kılıçsoy story. That's what I'd call it.
Yeah. That's a good call. All right, I fully agree with you guys. Simi Kılıçsoy is by far the MVP, the player of the season. There is no debate, I think, on that front. I don't even think anyone in the chat except for RQ7 who thinks Jean Onana deserves that.
Well, actually, so let's open it up to the floor. Umar Gunal says that it's merit. He's the only reason we stayed up there with the rest for a while and won the cup. And then Jason says, if we look past Semi, I thought Merit Gunal had a consistently decent season.
He's got too many mistakes in him.
Yeah,
I'm not the biggest Mert fan either. I mean, he did in the cup play fantastic, but
for sure, he saved in that final match. He made. I mean, he had
a good season.
Throughout the season, he had some amazing moments, but he also had some duds.
Didn't his mistakes mainly come last season, though? I don't really remember a lot of blunders this season.
He had a couple.
Both goals against Adana scored.
Right, but he was injured. Like that was more Şenol Güneş's fault for playing him because he was injured.
I never liked to scapegoat the keeper. You know, I've always been pretty consistent about not wanting to blame a keeper. Like like Sally in our group is a keeper himself on like a Sunday league in the Netherlands, and he always finds reason to fault like Mert. He didn't come out and claim this or that or whatever. And I'm always a little bit more apprehensive to blame, but I mean there's.
He definitely had mistakes this year. Yeah, I mean, because I can remember us talking about, he's not good enough, he's too mistake prone. But there's nothing really that is coming to mind, to be honest. But there definitely is mistakes there because we have spoke throughout the season that he does have a mistake too many in him.
But Muslera makes mistakes too. Like every goalkeeper has mistakes in them, obviously. But I agree with you though, Kartal. Like I don't like in an ideal world, I'd prefer a good foreign goalkeeper. But I think like if you decide to go one more season with Mert, I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah, look, it's not that I don't like him. I like Mert as well. I thought he was brilliant last season as well up until he fucked us in the last game and cost us second place. But he's probably the reason why we, alongside Abu Bakar, why we had a shot at second place in the first place last season.
Yeah.
So it's not that I dislike him. I do like him, but to say he's been the best player this season, I think that's a bit of a stretch considering I think he does have a mistake too many in him. Although he is a good goalie as well. I do agree he is pretty good.
Yeah. Alright, then final note on this subject. The top goal contributors of the season. Number 1 is Simi Kilicsoy with 16 goal contributions this season. He scored 12 goals and gave 4 assists. Cenk Tosun actually also in second place with 16 goal contributions, but he gave 5 assists and scored 11. So interesting. Cenk, who has been getting so much hate this season, still a decent goal contribution amount. Just a second. And then Abubakar has 15 goal contributions this season, 12 goals and 3 assists. Of course, 7 of those goals came in Europe in the qualifiers. So, yeah, I don't think he scored a single goal in the Conference League. Oh, no, he did score 1 goal against Lugano in the group stages, I think. But other than that, he is actually 1 goal shy of taking the record of equaling Oktay Delio's record of European goals for Beşiktaş. So it's unlikely he'll stay this season, so I guess he'll not break that.
He should.
And then number 4 top goal contributors is Rasicka with 11 goal contributions, 5 scored, 6 assists provided. So let's head over to more team-related highlights, lowlights, and we're starting off with the low point of the season. Sinan, I'm going to start with you on this one. What was your low point of the season? And maybe also straight go into the next one, highlight of the season. So low point, highlight.
Low point. It's got to be when we fire, I'm going to say like our 4th or 5th manager, probably pre-Santos, right? Like when we've got to call in the board and do a vote. It's like when the whole season basically collapsed, like definitively, right? And we knew that we had to basically restart the whole club. So I'm going to say...
So the Lugano game.
The Lugano game, probably. The loss to Lugano, and then from there, it's just like everything falls out, right? Like Şenol gets fired, Ahmet Nurçebi.
I was designed.
Basically, that's probably it, Lugano.
Yeah.
Highlight, winning the cup. It's got to be winning the cup. Do you want to put an asterisk on that and get rid of the cup?
That's the obvious highlight. So let's just lead with that's the highlight for everyone.
Besides that one, I'll go back to the getting past Kiev. going into Europe.
Yeah.
Because that was a moment where it was like, okay, I don't. Again, as Kartal said earlier, like I don't think anyone was like, oh, we're gonna win the title this year, especially knowing what our rivals had spent already. But it's like, okay, maybe we can salvage a good season. We can have a good little run in Europe. Maybe it'll be like a solid third place this year.
Yeah. This is why, look, see what Sinan just said there about going back to what I said about how that shows you how much a monumental failure this window was from Ahmed Nursevi, and why he should never be allowed near this club again, and why he's a disgrace. That guy's a disgrace.
Hey,
I don't see how he can sleep at night.
I put him on the thumbnail in the center.
Yeah. That guy, he shouldn't be able to look at himself in the mirror. He shouldn't be able to sleep at night.
Yeah.
He's fucked this club. That's the reality. He's fucked this club that we all love.
Yeah. He's not the only one.
The fact is, he's not the only one.
Yildirim Demirhan has done a lot worse.
Yeah, he was the worst. He was the worst, right? But this summer was just pure chaos.
People were talking not so long ago. Were talking about getting him back as president. So
I know, yeah.
Let's be honest. Anyone that even mentions that as a clown, because I'd say Yildirim Demirhan's the worst president we've ever had.
Pretty sure a mutual acquaintance of ours.
Yeah. I mean, I love that guy, but he's a bit of a clown as well. There's no shying away from that. But
we should show his preferred 11 for next season, right? It's like Memphis Depay and anyway.
Yeah. Right. So the fact, what I'm saying though is the fact that we all knew coming into the season that we are not going to be champions. We all could tell that the summer window was a complete dud. So how could the board not see this, and why did they sign these players? It just shows you that I think Ahmed Nursevi's board knew their days were numbered, and they quite frankly didn't give a fuck. So they just filled the team with any player they could get from the agents. That's what I think.
Yeah. So I guess that's your low point of the season, just the season in general.
Yeah. I mean, the Lugano game's a low point, but at the same time, that's the start of the rebirth of Beşiktaş, and hopefully we can be reborn from our ashes starting from this summer.
True.
We need to clear out the dead wood, and I'm fully confident that Hassan Arat's going to build a good team.
No.
I'm not entirely sure if he's going to bring in the right manager, because we saw with Santos that. But at the same time, it's hard to bring in a manager in January. But I'm not sure about the manager, but there's one thing I'm sure about. I think this guy's going to, if we can get rid of the dead wood, he's definitely going to build a good team. So
highlight of the season.
The Lugano game is a low point, but at the same time, it could be down the line seen as one of the greatest turning points in our club's history, because I believe that Hassan Arat could be one of the great presidents that this club's ever seen.
I like that. That's a great positive spin on. Yeah,
Lugano
what I said
is your highlight because it ushered in the Hassan Arat.
It's a low light. A highlight as it comes, but it's a low light, but at the same time, it's a highlight. It's a turning point.
Yeah,
that's clever.
Pivotal moment in the club's history.
Very, very, very good. Good take.
Kartal's like finding his inner poet lately, man. Yeah. The flower blooming in the swamp. Granted, that might have been Sally.
That was sorry.
So low points.
I'm gonna give you credit because I prefer you.
Low points for me. I actually, the Lugano one is the obvious one. Losing 5-0 to Club Brugge was pretty low. That was pretty. That was rock bottom.
Especially for you, bro. You're probably getting absolutely.
It wasn't too bad, but that was definitely. I mean, also just for the perception of the club, I think losing 5-0 like that at home, even when you're bad. And you also have to keep in mind, Club Brugge ended up winning the league, but they had a horrible season. The only reason they won the league is because they played an incredible playoffs where they got 26 out of 30 points. No, 26? Yeah, so 25 or something. I don't know. They got an insane amount of points in the playoffs. They started with 19 points behind to the playoffs, but that gets cut in half. So that 19 went to 9 points, I guess. And that's how they managed to become champions. But they had a horrible season. They fired their coach and everything. The coach that actually was in charge beating us 5-0, he got fired. So just wanted to
former Celtic coach.
Yeah. So we didn't lose 5-0 to a great Brugge. Just so you know, we lost to a team that was also struggling domestically in the league, and to lose 5-0 to them was a pretty Yeah, like there's a lot of low points this season, but that one was that definitely sticks out.
Although we were missing about 10 players in that game, but still, obviously, there's no excuse.
Yeah, there's no excuse for losing 5-0 like that in front of you.
What about the high point, Kaan?
High point for me is just Simi Kilic as a whole. Just the fact that this cream has risen to the top. That's despite how terrible we are this season, this kid still managed to bang in 12 goals, give 4 assists. Like, I don't think you can underestimate that. Put a decent team around him, and there's no reason why he shouldn't score 20 goals, in the league.
Yeah. I mean, he scored, 12 in just over half a season, so why not?
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. 1,600 minutes or something like that. And 12 goals, 4 assists. It's phenomenal. Beautiful. So he's my highlight of the season.
Let me just go to the comments real quickly. We've got Umer Gunal talking about how Lugano at home, the only game I was able to go this year since I flew home for it. Wish I didn't. Yeah, we can all sympathize.
Yeah, for sure.
RQ7, this mysterious Quaresma lover, he said he had 2 assists. No, he scored twice versus Lugano. I guess he's talking about Abu.
Yeah.
When we were talking about Abu.
Yeah.
Umer Gunal, low point. Fener derby at home. It was downhill from there. Probably a fair shout.
I mean, it was downhill by a lot. It was downhill way before then, but yeah, that was a disgrace as well.
We knew though, right? Like
we were completely manhandled by Fenerbahce on our park, so it's a disgrace.
Yeah, that was tough. Jason, the game when we battled against Lugano, which we all basically talked about a little, and then this is funny. Umar mentions finding out we have a sweatshop for other teams' shirts under our stadium is the lowest point possible. I totally forgot about that. That didn't even make the Javier Kartal schedule.
Yeah.
Oh, that was a bad one.
Yeah, that's a good one. How is that even possible, right? Like, how? That doesn't make
anything's
sense.
Possible. Anything's possible when Ahmed Nunchevi is involved.
Yeah. All right, so guys, I've got a fun little game for you. So we had not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 5 coaches this season. Actually 6 if you count Serdar Topraktepe's double stint. So we started off the season with Şenol Güneş. Then we went to Burak Yılmaz until he was replaced by Riza Çalınbay. Then Riza Çalınbay didn't make the end of 2023 and got sacked. Replaced by Serdar Topraktepe, he was in charge for 3 games, and then Fernando Santos came in until April, I believe, when he got sacked, and then Serdar Topraktepe took over once again, and we're gonna play a fun little game. We're going to rank the coaches from good to worst. So I'm going to bring up a graphic over here, and let's have a look. Where is it? Here. We're gonna rank these guys. We're gonna rank these bad boys. And we got some pictures over here.
Yeah.
So, who wants to start?
You go first, Kartal.
I'll start. So I think we should start from the bottom and work our way up. That sounds a good idea.
Let's see. Let's bam, Kartal's picks. Yeah, you go ahead. Just pick whoever you want to put on the bottom. Yeah.
Right. So for number 5 for me is Riza Çalınbay.
Riza Çalınbay.
Yeah, it was a complete disgrace if you ask me. Not only was the team bad, but the guy just doesn't know how to handle himself in front of the press. Like, he literally shat on the whole team. Remember after the Alanya game, he shat on the full team. Basically said that Jensen could have played. He was injured, but he could have played. Ox is injured as always. If I was a coach in the summer, I wouldn't have signed half these guys. That was the worst one. But after every game, he was just very unprofessional in the way he handled the press and the way he just put the players under the bus. Yeah. And also the football and the results were trash as well. So for me, that's why he's my number 5.
Yeah.
Yep.
Who's your number 4?
Do you want me to just do 5-1 and then? I think maybe we could do 5-5. Like what? We each take turns.
No. Go ahead.
No, you first. You first, Kartal.
Yeah.
I want to hear your thinking too.
Okay, so for number 4, it's Fernando Santos. The reason why I'm putting Santos at 4 is football was trash, but there was a brief spell where we went 6 games without a loss, as well as the first couple of games, the League One 4-0, 3-0 against Karagümrük, and then a 4-0 win in the Cup against Elfsborg. But I think that was more of a continuation of what Serdar Toprak had the team doing. Because once we reverted to Santos' style, it kind of went downhill. Apart from a brief stint where we won 5 out of 6 in all competitions, there was 1 draw against Kayseri. But even in that period, we were playing like Konya, who were really poor for most of the season, like Istanbulspor, who were relegated, those types of teams. And the football was bad. We were scraping by 1-0, 2-0 wins. One thing I'll say about Santos is I think Santos, in comparison to Riza, was very professional with the press at all times. He always spoke a good game. He actually, if he implemented what he spoke about, he could have been very successful. Because he always said that, I know that we need to play better football and we need to play more as a collective and dominate the ball, and that's how, he'd always talk about how Beşiktaş should play, and he was spot on. But we never saw that. We never saw his words turn into practice. We never saw it materialise on the pitch. And then obviously his stint finished with 5 games with no wins in the league in a row. So we went 3 losses in a row and then 2 draws. The football was dire, and so it was the right call. I mean, I'm not going to say against, because I didn't have time to. We didn't have time to say we didn't want him, because he got announced. That was the first time we heard about it. I was very cautious, but when he first came in, I didn't think he was the right man due to the style of football he's known to play. And unfortunately, I wish I was wrong, but time proved me to be right. But he was my number 4. Number 3, Hamana da Mamana, Burak Yılmaz.
Hamana.
Yeah, I didn't.
That's in reference to the Antalya scored post game when he was so angry about the buy situation. Sinan, you might not know about this, but he was so angry that instead of swearing, he just went like "Hamana" like that. The dress was just gibberish.
I knew there had to be a reference in there. That's
good. Yeah. So he's my number 3. I mean, it was too much too soon for him. It was a mistake to give him the job, I think. I really think probably what would have been better if the old board could have just convinced Channel to stay until the election, and then Channel could have left with them after the election. Because I really think we probably would have got some more points between then. To be honest, but I think at times Burak Yılmaz had us playing okay football, and there was times where I could see some sort of direction in what he wanted. You could see some triangles forming on the pitch, despite the results not being too good. I mean, he won his home games in the league at least. But I think at least there was a sense of direction. You could see some in games. There was a clear plan.
Size, you only had 3 games in charge or something. So
it was 6 altogether if you count the Europa League games.
Europe as well, I guess. Wasn't that 5-0 with him in charge, or was that?
No, that was with Riza. That was Riza. That was Riza.
Okay.
I think in the Galatasaray game especially, he had a good game plan. We just didn't have the players to have it work, and also the red card and stuff like that affected us. Not getting sent off. So he's my number 3. My number 2 pick, Şenol Güneş. Reason why he's my number 2 is, despite on paper, if you look at the results, the win percentage, he had the best win percentage, but we had 3 very bad losses under him after going 7 months unbeaten. The Lugano loss, which ended it all for him when we were 2-0 up. Rosier got sent off. We collapsed in the last 10 minutes, lost 3-2. 4-2 loss to Adana Demirspor in a game where really we should have destroyed them. They were missing a lot of players in that game, and a 3-0 loss to Trabzon, which was really bad. The reason why he's my number 2 is he done 6 out of 6 in the European qualifiers, and out of all the coaches we've had this season, did have the best win percentage in the league as well. He's my number 2, and the reason why he's not my number 1 is because he is partly responsible for this mess we're in. Although I'm not going to say he's the reason why we signed all these shit players, he let it happen. If he'd put his foot down and called them out in the press, the board wouldn't have got away with making these shite signings. But instead, Şenol Güneş covered for them, and you don't want to see that. And number 1, Serdar Toprak. I think in his first stint, we played some of the best football we've played in the season. The second stint in the league, it stopped being as good, despite a couple of better games. I think a lot of that is because we were hyper-focused on the Cup, and I think we played our best game in the full season, the Cup final. phenomenal game plan from Serdar Toprak. Maybe some people did criticise his subs, but we need to remember, like, people criticising Brian on Abu, not Semi, but Semi had a knock, so he obviously wasn't 100%, so that's why he brought in Abu. Phenomenal game plan in that final. We won as a trophy. Although the 1% isn't as good as Shell Ganeshi's in the league, he's actually pretty poor in that second stint. Like, the guy wins a trophy, so for that reason alone, he has to be number one.
Yeah, that's a good shout, Kartal. Let's see. I'm gonna save your list here so I can maybe use it later. I will see whether I will use it or not. And then let's move over to Sinan's picks then. Mr. Schwarting, if you please, give me your team.
So I've got it a little different. I've got Channel at 5. I obviously, you look at like his winning percentage, right? But I think that's, if you remove it from context, that looks like it's the best. But if you consider the fact that we were coming into the season and a much higher morale, and that he actually killed the locker room and essentially created the problem that ultimately deaded the whole season. I hold him responsible for much of what went wrong. Obviously, ANC more so. Ahmet Nurçebi is the sole recipient of, like, you know, asshole of the season, but Şenol is right up there with him in my mind. I don't think you can just look at his stats, because again, right, like going into, like, the reason everyone else's stats are so bad is because of what he gave them, right? He destroyed the morale in the locker room. He destroyed camaraderie. His outdated man management skills are what created much of, you know, the groundwork for why everything else fell apart. So I've got him at 5.
Yeah.
I've got Riza at 4, just because of his impetuousness, his terrible, his passing the buck, inability to own any of what he was doing wrong tactically. You know, blaming everyone else essentially for everything that was going wrong and not owning any of it. Like, as a leader, you can't operate like that. Then I've got Burak Yilmaz. Could have been Fernando Santos, yeah. But, like, Burak, you know, I put him right in the middle in the most sort of neutral position, because I think he has the least track record to really comment on. I suppose I could agree with Kartal that, you know, we started to see something forming, and I think that the derby against Galatasaray was actually, you know, I think most of us kind of felt like we could have actually gotten something out of that, and we were let down a little bit by the players. So I put him there. Santos 2, just like because there's nowhere else for him to be. Not the right manager, but he brought us a little excitement, you know, just because I guess he was hired and nobody expected him to be. That's not really a strength of his, but and I mean, as Kartal mentioned, there was a moment where we thought we had a defensive shape and you know, a kind of identity, because he was having us play moderately well, you know, in the back. So I guess I'll put him there. And Serdar Toprak, man, like, I said this after his first spell, and I gave him a lot of credit, because he really did stabilize the locker room. He normalized things to the extent that we could kind of, like, go back to square one, you know, when we hired Fernando Santos and all that. So I have a ton of respect for what he's accomplished. I hope we keep him in the you know, within the club, not necessarily as an assistant manager or even as a coach with the first team. In fact, like I said in the last episode, I hope he stays as our under-19 coach so we can keep developing his, like, tactical approach and you know, refine how he wants his teams to play. If he gets a job somewhere else and, like, earns a real job somewhere, I wouldn't hold that against him, you know, sort of like Under Karavelli did, right? I would hope he would do a lot better than Under Karavelli did, and I think he probably would, honestly. So there it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, Sinan, you know what? I have the same in my mind, so this is also mine.
Yeah.
I 100% agree with you. I don't I really couldn't care less about Şenol Güneş's point average. The reason this season has gone down the drain as much as it has is obviously the previous board's responsibility for, let's say, 60-65%. But all the other responsibility falls on Şenol Güneş. Not on Burak Yilmaz, not on Riza Çalınbay, not on Fernando Santos, on Şenol Güneş. So he is number 5. He is complicit to what went wrong in the summer. And there's just no way that should be swept under the rug by putting him at 2 or at 3 or whatever. He is number 5. He is responsible for this mess. And obviously Sedat Topraktepe is number 1 because he won us a cup. Whether or not Santos at 2, look, I think it's difficult to really justify putting him at 2, given the fact that he's been pretty shit as well. But like Burak Yilmaz coached 6 games?
6 games.
Said,
Yeah.
Like that's not a proper sample size, I feel. And Riza Çalınbay deserves to be at number 4 because he was a petulant child. And he deserves to be there. So yeah, I agree with Sinan's top 5. Let us know your top 5, your rankings. But this is also mine.
That was a fun game.
Yeah,
that was a fun game.
That was great. That was great, Kaan. I like your graphics too. I also like how you predicted Serdar winning, and so he has a little cup in his hand. I feel like that's very appropriate. I like that. Well done, Kaan.
Alrighty. Well, thank you
So,
guys for.
Shall we address these comments?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
So we have a few more comments, and it's actually, I think, good to wrap up the episode with them because they're kind of like forward-reaching. So let's see. We've got Mucci could be the next. No, we did that. We talked about Hussein Yücel, I guess. Amir, did we talk about how he could be the next to Musrati? Yeah, I guess we did. Okay, so Jason, he asked, which of the following loans should be reintroduced into the team? Kartal Yilmaz, Aydin Hasic, or Javi Montero? And of course, there's Rosier. Any of them, you guys? What do you think?
I think Kartal. I think my namesake can stay as just as a rotational player, but I don't think the rest of them should stay. No, I think the rest of them need to get rid of the rest.
I mean, depending on what happens to the foreign limit, I guess Hasic could be given another attempt. But if it's going to stay the way it is with 11,
12.
What was it?
No
12.
chance.
With 12,
Yeah,
I
no
don't see a chance. But there might be a chance for him to get loaned out to a Super League team. He had a good season at Sarajevo, 29 games under his belt with 8 goals and 6 assists. So he had a good season. So maybe he could get a contract extension and get loaned to a Turkish club. He's been loaned to the Birinci League in the past, but that was still coming off of the ACL injury. I think now with a good season in the Bosnian League under his belt, I could see him go to Konyaspor, for example. I know they like their Bosnians, so yeah, why not loan him out? Jean Onana is, I think, that's somebody you need to move on as quick as possible. Montero, definitely somebody I want to see get a chance next season. Over, like, if you look at what our current crop of central defenders, obviously Woral is gone. Corley is probably going to get sold or moved on. So I think Montero coming in as an option, I am all for that. He had a good season in Portugal with Arouca, played 34 games, scored a goal and gave an assist, and had an overall solid season according to the Portuguese media. I'm not going to pretend like I watched him.
I'm a big fan of having Montero, but if the limit stays at 12, he can't stay. It's that simple, because
I think that depends on like, let's say you get one good foreign central defender, like, you know, ideally we'd need 2, but if you only get the 1, then why not have Montero be number 2, right?
It also depends how many Turks are in the starting lineup. I mean, you have to admit, Kartal, it depends. Like, if we bring in, for example, Salih Özcan, you know, like, I'm trying to think of other prominent Turkish players that could crack the starting lineup, but, like, I don't know, maybe Yasin Özcan starts at left back. I mean, the point being, Mert Günok, Semi Kılıçsoy, if we don't sell him, there could be enough Turks in the lineup that we actually have a few, rotation spots for foreigners. I mean, a lot of it's going to depend on who we keep, who we bring, who we sell, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm with Kaan. I would love Montero.
I think Montero's a good player, but I think we need 12 players that are definitely good enough to start.
Yeah,
I think
you need to keep in mind with Montero, he's 24 now? I think he was like
25.
Okay.
He's 25.
And
He's younger than me.
He was like 21 when he came, so he was still really
it's
young.
been 4 years.
He was still really young. He now has had a really solid season under his belt in
Portugal,
in a league far superior to ours. I think if he didn't have a history with Beşiktaş, he would be a player that Beşiktaş could be looking at right now as, that might be an interesting signing. But because he has this history with us at a young age, and he got written off for one reason or another, which I still don't quite understand because I always thought he was decent. Like, he's automatically taken out of consideration. I just think that's such a bad decision. Like, also financially, why go out and get a player of equal caliber for money when you already have this guy under contract?
Yeah,
and he is perfectly willing to play for the club, so I think he should get another chance.
Look, if they make it 14 foreigners, I think he should stay 100%. But I think at 12 it's just a bit of a stretch. That's what I'm saying.
Anyway, back to the comments, because I think we're all in agreement there. Regarding Talisca, how we talked about earlier, Mario Vargas says, not for nothing, but we got to stop holding on to the past as far as Talisca is concerned. I would add as far as a few others as well, maybe some coaching candidates, but anyhow. Umer Gunal says, all journalists do is use Talisca's name to generate clicks. We all know he's an expensive luxury. Oh, we already did that. I think he said something else too. Oh, I'm going to say something that a lot of Beşiktaş fans will hate me for. Sorry, Talisca does not love us as much as we love him.
Oh, for sure.
As in,
he loves money.
He doesn't care much for the club. He's just securing his pay. Yeah. I think we can all agree, right? He's gotten a few extensions on his contract in Saudi Arabia off of our supposed interest. So, fully agreed, Umer.
Yep.
One more for the future. Mario Vargas. You know who I'd love back? Wout Weghorst.
Mm-hmm.
No.
No.
I don't want him. No. I think he needs to be I think when we're saying a striker, it needs to be it needs to be someone that's going to score a lot of goals. And I don't think Weghorst is that guy.
Weghorst is going to get 7 goals in I think Weghorst in a good team bags you 15 to 20 goals, but I understand what you mean. I think. I don't think he's the same player he was a few years ago. He didn't have a great season at Hoffenheim, that's true. Like, I think he scored 7 goals or something this season, which isn't particularly impressive.
I think Patrick Schick, I do think that's the guy we should go for.
Yeah, but come on, man. Is that realistic? That's a 25 million player. I don't.
But
think...
he's not. He doesn't start for Leverkusen, bro. So why not?
He doesn't start, but he comes in off the bench very regularly. He still had a significant part in their season. Like, he's not a starter necessarily, but he still plays plenty. They might want to offload him, but they paid a lot of money for him. I don't think they're gonna let him go cheap. Like, that's not a player you're getting for 7 or 8 million, I think. I mean, I fully agree if we can get him, 100% get him, but I don't think that's very realistic. I think that's something that's been propped up by Beşiktaş social media as being realistic, but if you look at it through a critical viewpoint, I think it's not. I don't think it's a realistic signing for us. I mean, I'm not saying it can't happen. Maybe it does, and I would be very happy, but I don't know. I feel like that's setting our sights a little high. Let's move on then to looking forward to the next season. So the Super League starts on the 10th of August and the Europa League playoffs start on the 22nd of August. So we have a lot of time now where we don't have any competitive football. So actually we start on the 22nd of August and Galatasaray will start on the 20th of August because of the Champions League playoffs being played a couple of days before the Europa League playoffs. Fenerbahce actually have to start their season mid-July, so they start very early. And I think Trabzonspor starts before us as well because they have to play at least one round further.
They have
we have
more rounds of this.
Yeah, we have a bunch of ending contracts as well. Rashid Ghezal, Joe Worrell, Utku Yuvakaran, probably the guy in Turkish football who has earned the most amount of trophies with playing the least amount of minutes. Salih Uçan, Cenk Tosun, Umut Meraş, and Gökhan Inler are all on expiring contracts. Should any of these get extended, guys?
I think Sarri should stay if the money's right. The rest of them, no.
Sinan?
I think if you can get Sarri to sign on for 750,000 a year for another 2 years, he should definitely
3 years.
stay. 2 years, two.
Two. Okay.
750, 2 years. I think that's fair because Sarri Uchan's a good player. He's a bit inconsistent. He's injury
He's a
prone.
good player, but he's constantly injured. I mean, if you're going to extend it, I think that should be something like 1+1.
I think for 750k, considering the Thorner limit coming down to 12, I think he's a player that we should keep around if the price is right.
Yeah. Sinan, how do you feel about that?
I'm going to surprise some people here, especially I think it was Sally who called me he said I have Cenk hating goggles or something like that.
Really?
But,
You?
I know, which is ridiculous. I literally bought Cenk's jersey this year, but I actually think it'd be worth keeping Cenk if we can get him cheap, because if you look at Turkish strikers, they're almost impossible to find, and I don't know what the hell that is. I don't know how it's possible still that I think 2 generations have passed without a proper Turkish striker, but I think we're still kind of in that stretch. I mean, we all hope for Enes Ünal or Semih Kılıçsoy. Obviously, whether he's a striker or a winger is up for debate, but I think it's hard to come by a quality Turkish striker, and we're going to need one for at least depth. So if he's willing to not, demand a huge pay rise, I would keep him around. Sally also I would keep around, but far more on where you are, Kaan, as far as he really has to take. He has to realize that his health hasn't been where it needs to be for us to rely on him. His consistency, even regardless of health, hasn't been where it needs to be for us to ever be able to really rely on him at all. So yeah, I mean, again, for depth, it's always good to have Turks, but they'd both have to be willing to put their ego aside and realize where they are in their career.
I think you could justify giving Sally a 600k contract and then give him 10k per appearance or something. So if he plays 40 games somehow, then he still makes $1 million,
Yeah.
But I don't think you can justify paying Sally more than he's making now. I think he's making roughly 600. I think he's making lira right now, so his 600 probably went down to 400 or something stupid. I think justifying giving him 600k or 750k like Kartal said, that's fine. I think that's doable. Yeah. And then you give him an appearance fee or something. I think the same thing with Cenk. Cenk is currently on $500,000 and a high appearance fee. I think Cenk more so than Sally needs to realize that he is not really in a position to be demanding outrageous amounts. After last season, if he hadn't gotten injured, he definitely deserved a pay bump. He was underpaid last season, but this season,
definitely, he was brilliant.
Yeah, but this season, I think he is getting exactly what he is still able to offer us. I mean, look, he still got us 16 goal contributions this season, and I don't think it's Cenk's fault that he had to play a lot more than he really should be playing. I think Cenk should be our backup striker and shouldn't be our starter. He should be a guy coming off of the bench. Does he still have that in him to be a super sub? I don't really think so. He is a club legend though. If he wants to stick around for another season, I'm 100% okay with that, as long as he's willing to accept a low wage, which doesn't seem to be the situation. So if he isn't willing to take a low pay, then yeah, sorry, but he needs to be moved on. Rashid
that
Ghezal,
goes for both of them,
I
right?
think showed us some of the best football he's been in the last 3 years. Of course, he's missed so much due to injury, and it took a long time before he got back to his best. In an ideal world, I'd like to keep Rashid, but with the foreign limit being what it is going to be next season, I don't think we can justify giving Rashid Ghezal a contract extension, despite the fact that I think he was still really quite good at the end of the season. I did not expect that anymore.
Since he got that game, he's been good.
Yeah. Yeah, indeed. Let's see then, what else do we have? So the ending contract, yes. Who can stay, who can go? We already talked about that. Then we had a listener question from Attila from London. What could we do to have more influence on the referees? I'm going to go first here. Hire Jose Mourinho. Kartal,
I knew you were going to say that.
I think, to be honest, Kaan, that'd be a great solution if that's your main issue.
Yeah.
I think out of all the coaches mentioned, he'd be the one that'd have the most influence on the referees. Mm-hmm. I think he's the right coach. He's not my first pick. I'm not a huge proponent for him, Calvin. Although I don't think it would be a really terrible thing either. If he was to come, it could be very successful.
Would be great for the podcast if those Jose Mourinho episode numbers or anything to go on.
Yeah.
We might get some Chelsea fans getting their weekly dose of Beşiktaş just from our podcast.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, for the podcast, it'd be great. Do I personally think he's the right fit for us? I don't think so, but I mean, try to influence the referees. I think that's not real. We're not really about that at Beşiktaş.
No, yeah,
that's not what we're about.
I thought when I read.
That's Fenerbahçe.
That's Fenerbahçe and
Galatasaray.
I just want them to call it down the middle and treat us fairly. That's all I want, man. I don't want any privileged treatment because I don't want to win. I don't want to win the cup championship with.
What is one of our main club mottos?
Şerefli ikincilik.
Like, that's one of them. Is like Şerefli ikincilik, şampiyonluktan iyidir. Yani bize yeter Şerefli ikincilik, which means that an honourable second place is enough for us. It's better than a first place.
Yeah, but we don't want any haram kupa.
Biz Beşiktaş'ız. Şerefimizde oynarız. Hakkımızda kazanırız.
Yeah.
What does that mean? We are Beşiktaş.
We play with honour. Yeah, and we want to win the right way.
Yeah, rightfully. We want to win by deserving it.
Wins,
we want to earn our trophies.
Yeah.
So
I have one caveat.
Yeah, go ahead, Sinan.
I fully agree. By the way, Kartal. I think we are a very ideological fan base traditionally. I think we have to maintain that to some extent. And I don't mean ideological, right? That could be bad. I mean in a positive way. We adhere to a moral code, right? And I think that's fantastic. I will say that we can keep doing what we've begun to do under Hasan Arat, and that is to lobby for proper leadership in the TFF.
Oh yeah, of course.
Complain about duds and corrupt assholes.
Yeah.
And I think just keep your thumb on that kind of mentality, right? Like oversight. Like keep pointing out injustice and keep calling for proper management. And it doesn't have to be like a Beşiktaş fan, or some wealthy, please. I don't want Yıldırım Demirören.
I don't want
Yıldırım Demirören near the TFF, for example, even though he might theoretically favor us.
No, I mean, Demirören fucked us, man, when he was in the TFF.
I know. Exactly.
That piece of shit, still all his newspapers write bullshit about Beşiktaş every fucking day, man. They do whatever they can to sabotage the club. He does not represent Beşiktaş whatsoever. He does not have the best interest of the club at heart. I mean, he's proven that by literally stealing the income we should have gotten from the Fulya project. Fucking the club over.
And completely. I mean, it's so important to mention that he is, as much as we've criticized Şenol Güneş for this season or Ahmet Nur Çebi for this and the last season, whatever, Yıldırım Demirören should be considered the greatest evil of almost all time for among Beşiktaş fans. The amount of debt that he saddled us with in that era that I was young at the time and I had no conception of economics and football and any of that stuff, and I was so excited. Simao and freaking Almeida and Quaresma, and all of it was fantastic, but in retrospect, man, how fucking stupid was he? What did he expect to come from that kind of expenditure? And
the damage was done way before then.
And what were we doing? Of course. But what were we doing to sell to make any money back? Even there was there was no planning whatsoever. It's so frustrating to even consider how much he set us back.
Sinan, do you know how many players Beşiktaş sold for a profit in Yıldırım Demirören's reign? 8 years it was. How many players did we sell for a profit?
I don't know.
I think it was one John Carew.
Oh,
that was
Carew.
it.
That's right.
Oh my God.
John Carew, that was it.
Yeah.
Like,
Only one.
Disgusting, man.
Like 2004 when he got elected, I was fucking 6, right? When he left in 2012, I was 14. So I was young, right? I was between the ages of 6 and 14, and all I can remember is like my dad would look in on it because obviously we live in Scotland, and he'd say we talk about all these players we signed, and then we'd follow the games on like SportX and like watch them in like on like dodgy websites before Digital Play was a thing.
Yeah, I remember those.
And
days.
see, like half the guys that would fucking sign in the summer would be gone by like January or like the next summer. It was crazy.
Yeah.
They would sign these guys, and then like 6 months to a year later would fucking rip up their contracts. It was so careless.
And what's worse is it's set a culture and an expectation that has lived on to this day. Where like there are so many scenarios where we like bring guys in before we let go of enough foreigners that it's obvious to everyone else that we don't need to pay you money for this guy. You're desperate to get rid of him. Like you have to because you just brought in your big fancy transfer signing that's playing in the same position who you need to make space for. So like we've done so many stupid things and since then because of like the tone that's set for us as fans where we expect it's June now. Like I want to see 3 transfers by like next week, and like we have to be more thoughtful. We have to be more considerate. We have to be more meticulous in planning these sort of things. Like I definitely like if there's one thing I have to say about Yildirim Demirören, and it's fuck you, and like don't ever come back to anywhere near our club or Turkish football, man. Just go away. Go be corrupt. Ruin some other industry, man. Please.
He's just Erdogan puppet. Anyway, boys, we need to start winding down here. I've got a couple of more news items I just want to make mention of quickly. So first is an update on Di Maria. As per Abola, which is one of the premier sources in Portugal, Di Maria is close to a move back to his boyhood club, Rosario Central. Return to Argentina is something that appeals to him. He's of course 36 years old, so there are some rumors out there that he's also we are obviously in talks with him as well, but it looks like he's leaning towards a return to Argentina. Then Beşiktaş have reportedly agreed a deal for Kasimpaşa's 18-year-old fullback / central defender Yasin Özcan. Deal is expected to be finalized after the under-21 Turkey versus Scotland match. The fee reported is around 3.4 million. We'll have to wait and see on whether or not that is true. I forgot to mention the source on this. It was some guy on Twitter. And then another news bit on the coaching front. Nuri Sahin will not be the new Feyenoord manager, according to 1908.nl, which is basically the Haber 1903 for Feyenoord fans. So apparently Nuri Sahin won't be their new coach, so that puts us back in pole position for his signature, if that is to be believed. And then I had some guys coming back from loan, but we already talked about that. Valentin Rosier, I would just quickly mention, only played 3 games for Nice, and for a grand total of 50 minutes, so he will definitely be coming back. They are not triggering his release clause. Marseille did also not choose to trigger Jean Onana's release clause. He returns to Beşiktaş after having played 562 minutes in the league, spread over 11 Ligue 1 appearances, and then he also made a full 90-minute appearance in the Coupe de France, but they got knocked out there. And that is all the news I have. I don't know if you guys have any extra news that you... Go ahead.
So Shafak Malatya has reported that the board are going to Italy for negotiations with managers.
Yeah.
Some managers mentioned there have been Fiorentina coach Vincenzo Italiano, who's personally for me, he's probably my number 1 or number 2 pick to be our next coach. He's got the Conference League final on Thursday. This is his second Conference League final in a row. He's known for playing a high possession based game, but also blended with a lot of high pressing to win the ball back quickly. and just try to create as many chances as possible. So he's could be an exciting option. Is it the most realistic?
He's
Maybe not,
reportedly close to Bologna, though, according to DAZN Italy. So, I mean,
he's got Champions League.
He's obviously somebody. I mean, Bologna's coach Thiago Motta is going to Juventus, so they will be looking for a new coach. And obviously, Italiano back-to-back European finals. He is going to be high on a lot of Italian clubs' lists, I think, of clubs who want to replace. Although, despite the fact that they are playing Champions League, I think that's a step down from Fiorentina, honestly.
In terms of size of club, I think I think honestly, if I was to think about it long term, I think we'd be a better move for him, considering we have a realistic shot of winning the titles and we could compete in multiple Champions League campaigns. Whereas for Bologna, this is really, I mean, to be honest, this is the first time I can remember Bologna ever being in the Champions League.
And also Raffaele Palladino, he was also linked. Shafak Malatya mentioned him, and also mentioned that Beşiktaş have an agreement with Nuri Şahin. So the decision hasn't been made yet whether they want to go with Nuri, but an agreement has been reached according to Shafak Malatya.
And another Italian manager being mentioned is Stefano Pioli. I think, to be honest, if we get, although I'm not huge on Mourinho because of his style of play, I think if we bring Italiano, Palladino, Mourinho or Pioli, one of the four, I think most people are going to be very happy. And I think, although Mourinho's not my first pick because of his style of play, I think any of the four would get me excited, to be honest.
I mean, Pioli has been in charge at Milan for 5 years. Like, he won a title with them, their first title in almost a decade. Like, difficult working situation as well at Milan.
I would add a point to Kartal's, which is I agree. Any four of those guys you mentioned, I'd take. And I would actually add Nuri to the list if he came. I would also be. I'd have no reason to not be excited. I feel like we'd be starting a new chapter, right? Like clearly, kind of building for the future, trying to build not just the squad out, but even like our manager, right? Like he would have a lot of development that would be required. But I mean, I could be excited. I saw Umer Gunal also supports the idea of bringing in Nuri. We've missed a few comments, by the way, guys, but maybe
you can go over
those. Wrap it up.
Yeah.
Oh yeah?
No, go over them. That's fine.
Good. So yeah, we've got. I guess we'll let go of the coach talk about Weghorst stuff. Like Umer was against Weghorst also, along with Kartal. He said we need Salih since we need decent Turkish players. This Mourinho dream should end before June, guys. You don't want to hurt yourself any further. His cost would cripple the club. I'm not convinced on that because we'd have a sponsor for the cost mostly.
Hussein Yücel's going to Hussein Yücel did say he's going to cover the full thing. So and saying that he's going to economically cripple the club, I don't agree with that.
Yeah. I mean, I think there are arguments against bringing him. I'm not sure if that's the one.
A monetary argument could those sponsors, could Hussein Yücel give that money and could it be more beneficial used in other ways? That'd be a fair argument.
Yeah, exactly. And then Habar Kartali posted the foreigners we're stuck with for next season. The situation is horrific. I think that's probably there's talk of Rebic, right? He says he doesn't want to go, and I've seen some of the talk.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, but I mean, I do think we'll probably end up giving him the majority, like 80 or 70% of his wages, and then he can sign with another team.
Yeah, I'll go.
Yeah.
He's also thrilled that we're not going to get Di Maria. Kaan, I think you're on Team Royce.
I'm definitely on Team Royce. If we have to get somebody like that, I 100% want to go with Marco Royce. Di Maria, I mean, I have no objections, but I'm not super pro, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
it's not something that gets my motor running.
See, that wasn't for me. Those were both. It's a funny expression. I was okay with both of those, honestly. I think we need veteran leadership. Whoever it is between those two, I'd feel pretty okay about them coming in.
Just one, but not both.
Yeah. I mean, and I don't mind another maybe two more 30-year-olds, right? But those guys are Past 35.
I mean, I've made this argument before, though. Like with Royce, like he has played such a high intensity level of football for the last 12 years at Dortmund. Like I have zero doubts that he is physically not capable of handling another year or two in the Super League and in the Conference / Europa League. I'm perfectly confident that he can handle that. All right.
Yeah.
Do you want to touch on a couple of more comments before we go?
So there's one. Umer replied to you guys. He said Hussein Yücel can say he'll sponsor. He means Mourinho, but it doesn't mean he will actually do it. How many times have we been lied to before? I mean, we were just talking about Yıldırım Demirören in that context. Yeah. But I mean, I think in this case, he's very explicitly come out and not only kind of like notified us all about our interest in Mourinho, but then also talked about how he's going to sponsor it. So I think it feels a little bit more concrete.
He has sponsored in the past, like Kagawa, for example. He sponsored that. So, like, I do think like he's a man of his word when it comes to that kind of stuff. Like, I have no worries about that. Like, if he said he's gonna pay for it, he'll pay for it. And I have yet to hear about him wanting his money for Kagawa back. Like, unlike Yıldırım Demirören, you know, who wanted his money back for whatever he. Well, Yıldırım Demirören basically. The club had so much debt to Yıldırım Demirören that he used that as a way to blackmail the club for not suing him for the bullshit he pulled with Fulya. Because,
Fuck that guy. I can't stress enough how much I dislike that dude.
Absolutely.
Anyway, final comment. Jason, he says, Pioli would be the biggest coup possible. The man ended Milan's banter era and would be bigger than Mourinho, which is perhaps a hot take.
It's a hot take, for sure. But
I think we could all agree that Pioli would be...
Pioli would be massive. Would be massive. But again, that's like an upper echelon level coach. Like, how realistic is it, right? Like, I think a guy like Italiano is us. There's nothing wrong with us reaching for the stars, right? Like, we should aim high. And maybe if you aim high enough, you can get lucky with someone. Like, it might not work with Flick. It might... Flick? Hansi Flick? Is it Flick?
Yeah, that's his name.
Yeah, Flick. Yeah, you got it. It sounds weird when you say it.
It doesn't. It might not work with Flick. It might not work with Mourinho. It might not work with Italiano. But maybe it works with Pioli, or maybe it works with the next guy. You know, the unnamed guy that I was talking about last week. Not that I have no inside knowledge, by the way. I'm just saying, like, I think.
No, you know what? That's actually so right, because if you think about it, right? If you're talking to a Mourinho or a Pioli or a Palladino or whoever it is, and it's being drummed up. Oh, we're also talking to this guy. We're also talking to Pioli. We're also, you know what I mean? Like suddenly you look more viable as someone that they could actually join, because it's like, oh, I'm up against some pretty elite competition. So no, it makes a lot of sense. I actually I like the aspiration. And at the end of the day, if Nuri Sahin is where we end up, I'd be pretty happy about that too. Like I'm actually happy with where we are right now, and that's most of all because we haven't for like a week we haven't heard the usual suspects. So,
we haven't heard Chino Sergen in a week.
Exactly. Please
time to celebrate. I mean, look.
Exactly.
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry, Kartal.
Yeah, the only thing I'd say is, for me, I don't understand why Nuri Sahin is seen as the number one candidate if it's going to be a talk. For me, the number one candidate should always be Chad Ashita. He's proven a lot more as a head coach than Nuri Sahin has.
I think that's a little bit of snobism, like, because Nuri Sahin is a brand, and he has a reputation. He had a really big playing career. Chadash is just a Super League level player and a Swiss League level player. Like,
so you just think they've both been a bit snobby? Because of the
snobby, and also with Nuri, if you appoint Nuri Sahin, you actually you probably have a realistic chance of bringing in some guys from Dortmund, like Hummels, like Royce. I'm not saying they're gonna come, but like I think you have a decent chance. And like there were rumors that if Nuri comes, that he might actually bring some of those guys with him. Royce supposedly has told some people that he is open to a move to the MLS. So I mean, how much of that is true that he would actually come with Nouri, I don't know. But
I think Çağdaş should always be considered first. What he's achieved at Başakşehir, Kayserispor, and Alanyaspor. I think he's 3 jobs, 3 huge successes.
Yeah.
He plays the right type of football. He's flexible as well. He can adapt to the situation.
Yeah.
I think him he'd be on number one. I think Ilhan's proven a lot more as a head coach than Nouri has as well. But we already know why Ilhan's not been considered because of his agent. But I really think that it's a shame that those two aren't considered first before Nouri, because they've proven a lot more as a head coach than Nouri has. So I think I'd be happy with Çağdaş. I'd be happy with Ilhan. I'd be happy with the 4 guys we mentioned, like the 3 Italian guys and Mourinho.
Yeah.
I mean, Mourinho would be my first pick, but he'd get me excited. But I mean, even like if you look kind of out of the box more, think out of the box more. Even like a Knutson from Bodo Glimt, I think that'd be a great move. But Nouri Şahin doesn't really excite me, to be honest.
Well, one more point in Nouri's favor, though, and I think you have to consider this. It does seem like Dortmund is very invested in his success. Like they're I think at this point very clearly trying to rear him as a future manager. And I've actually seen a lot of this discussion of late of like there's a real lack of talent in management right now in football, and like people are looking everywhere for young kind of innovative minds, right? Like Farioli going to Ajax was used as an example of people somewhat desperate to find that. So I think for Dortmund, they see in Nouri a guy who they can rear over the next few years to become, whatever, after Terzic and maybe even whoever comes next if Nouri's development is stalled. But it does seem like they're very invested in his success. And the reason that would be beneficial for us, as Kaan mentioned, is that might mean that they're more willing to help him succeed with us. And like you said, bringing players, establishing some sort of formal connection between the clubs. That stuff would portend well for us. That said, I do fully agree with you, Kartal, that Çağdaş Atan has, like, tactically, and as far as like taking teams that aren't very good and making them perform well, it's in my mind there's no doubt that he has that the advantage there. Same
career trajectory as Ilhan Palut, really, like has been successful at every single club he's coached. And Ömer makes a point in the chat as well. Like, one of the things he likes about Nouri is that he's multilingual. But I'm not sure. But Çağdaş played in Germany for Energie Cottbus. He played in Switzerland. So I would assume he at least knows some German and maybe some French as well. So I don't know. But obviously Nouri Şahin, he speaks English. He speaks German. He probably speaks Spanish from his time at Real Madrid. I'm not sure how fluent he's going to be. But that's obviously a huge advantage.
Pretty sure he's got a degree from Harvard as well.
There you go. I am unlike you, Kartal, I am actually more excited about Nouri. I think Nouri is. I completely agree with what you say about Çağdaş Atan should be at the top of the list when it comes to Turkish names. Same thing with İlhan Palut, by the way. But obviously we know that he's not being considered because of other reasons with his agent. I agree with you, but I would still be very excited about Nouri Şahin because I think Nouri Şahin has an appeal, international appeal that Çağdaş does not have. And getting someone like Nouri Şahin could make it easier to attract certain players, I think. Not to the extent of Jose Mourinho, of course. Nowhere near.
Of course. Or Pioli or whoever,
yeah. But it could still help you. And I think that's probably what the board wants. They want... you will know, Kartal, like, how WWE always wants somebody nice to put on the poster, right? Like, they don't want a Daniel Bryan, they want a Roman Reigns. I think that's kind of what Beşiktaş are looking for, like a poster boy, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Not in a negative way, because I know that name poster boy, like that term has a little bit of negative connotations. I don't.
No,
think
I know
in
what you
that
mean,
way,
though. Yeah.
But I definitely think that they want to have somebody they can put forward as this is our coach, somebody with a lot of charisma, somebody with international appeal, and I just think that's not something you get with Çağdaş and with İlhan Palut. Even though I think both of them are great choices and maybe even on paper right now better. I'm not saying they are, because I think Nuri Sahin could be great as well, and maybe even better, but he hasn't really proven it yet to the extent that...
His time at Antalya compared to what Çağdaş has done at Başakşehir, at Alanyaspor, at Kayserispor. Like, Çağdaş, his time at those three clubs was a lot more impressive than Nuri's time at Antalya. They narrowly escaped relegation last year, Antalya. He done well in his first year, don't get me wrong, but last year wasn't great. To be fair, he did do decent in the first half of this season before going to Dortmund, and they fell off. But I think in terms of the football that these teams played, the results the teams got, Çağdaş is definitely a couple of steps ahead of Nuri, which obviously you two have also agreed with that. But I do also agree that in terms of international appeal and name value, Nuri's definitely like more impressive in that regard. But for me, what they offer as a coach and the football they get their teams playing is more important than name value.
No. All right, on that note, I think we can end this episode. Unless, Sinan, you maybe want to pick up on a couple of those comments, like the last couple of comments, and then we end it?
Sure. So Umer said that Çağdaş is good, but I don't think Başakşehir will let him go that easily. That's probably true. You already mentioned the language thing.
Yeah, but I don't think they'll charge, like if you paid them like 2 million or something, they'll let them go.
Yeah, there'd be.
They let Avcı go as well.
Yeah, they let Avcı go as well. That's true.
Personally, he said, I want to see what Nuri was trying to implement at Antalya with players capable of doing what he needed. If he could get those mediocre players balling, imagine what he could do with us. And it is worth noting that they've fallen off quite a bit since he left, so there's some truth to that. Jason, I'm probably Nuri's strongest soldier, but Çağdaş is great as well. Umer Gunal says, Mourinho wouldn't just be a poster boy, he'd be the whole damn movie. But if his fees are covered, if it gets thrown to us, we can't get out under that rock. Umer Gunal, Nuri's network also is levels above Çağdaş, which, that's probably true, just given what we said, right? Dortmund's interest in his...
He said that,
yeah. I mean, he'll have connections at Liverpool, Real Madrid, Dortmund, Feyenoord. I mean, he has ins in a lot of different places already.
He could definitely attract better players, but as I said, I put more value in what he brings tactically, and so far Çağdaş has shown more. Not to say that Nuri won't show that ability, or even more than Çağdaş down the line.
We just haven't had
only go off,
same opportunity.
We can only go off what we've seen.
Yeah.
Did Nuri play under Klopp when he was with Liverpool? Was that already the Klopp
Dortmund? He played Dortmund. It was Brendan Rodgers
at Dortmund. Okay,
he went back to Dortmund, but I don't remember under what coach that was.
It wasn't. I think it was either Tuchel or the Swiss guy.
Well, let's see. What time was he there? Because he obviously...
nonetheless, though, what we've highlighted by accident is like there is an illustrious list of managers he's worked with.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, no doubt there. Let's have a look at his playing career. So, Dortmund, then spent the season at Feyenoord, then he went from Dortmund in 2012 to Real Madrid, 2013 to Liverpool, back to Madrid, 2014 to Dortmund, so he will have
So that would have been Tuchel?
No, because...
Was that still Klopp again?
Klopp was there until 2016, I think, and then he went to Liverpool.
No, he went to Liverpool in 2015.
Oh, okay, but then he will still have...
So it would have been Klopp.
He'll have had 1 year under Klopp then.
1 year under Klopp, and then it would have been Tuchel,
Yeah. All right, that covers all the questions or all the comments, I guess, in the comment section. Although you people keep commenting, keep going, guys. It's great.
Keep it coming.
Keep it coming.
Yeah. It's lovely. It's lovely.
Anyway, before we head out, please, if you haven't yet, click that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and give us a thumbs up. All of you, please hit that thumbs up button right now. If you're watching, hit the thumbs up button. Helps tremendously. And then after you're done in the chat, go and drop some comments. Love the comments. It's also something easier for people, to see who watch the video on delay, that they see a lot of activity in the comment section is always great. Anyway, thank you very much for watching and listening and being active in the chat. Sinan, I'm going to throw to you, and then I'm going to take the microphone back a little afterwards for a special send-off.
Great. one little note, Umer, we'll talk about Giovanni van Bronckhorst next episode, I promise. With that said, let's go Beşiktaş! 2024-25, it's here, baby! Yeah!
Very excited for next season.
So am I.
Yeah!
I'm very excited on some of the head.
Yeah.
Hopefully a good coach and a good squad, and we'll have a great season, hopefully.
Let's hope so. Fingers crossed for the coach appointment and the transfers in the coming 2 months or so. So we're not going to end on our usual note. I have made a special outro for this episode because one of our club legends, I think we can call him a club legend, Rashid Ghazal, one of the instrumental players in the 2020-21 championship, won 4 trophies at the club, a Super Cup, a league title, and 2 cups, is leaving the club after 4 years at the club. And we just wanted to say au revoir, Rashid. Yolun açık olsun.
Gözyaşı ve itiraz, bizimkisi alev gibi biraz, alev gibi bizimkisi tarihsi biraz. Nefesim dikenli bizimkisi roman gibi biraz.